Hello there, hello there, hello there, everybody. How the flippity flip are we all? I am sensationally well, I thank you for asking. Um, I thought I'd jump on a little bit early just to make sure that everything's sort of, okay and whatnot. And also to tell you some unfathomably, unfathomably bad news. Not that BowlerHatMan isn't coming on, because apparently they are. That's cool. I'm very much on board with that. It's regarding a certain item of clothing. Can you fucking believe this? Can you fucking believe this shit? That is not doing anything. Jesus. Yes. So having ordered the fucking thing, having been told it was going to be delivered yesterday, and then it changed to today, it's now changed till tomorrow. What's the point of Amazon Prime, really? Except, of course, to link it to your Twitch account and you get one free subscription every month, which means you can give me $5 of Jeff Bezos' money for free. Other than that, what is the fucking point? Fucking furious. So I'm going to have a bowler hat and no need for it at all. When the fuck am I ever going to use this thing? Unbelievable. So I'm going to have to find some other bowler hat related way of doing whatever. I don't fucking know. Take up bowlering? Is that a thing? I don't think it's a thing, is it? No, well. So anyway, yeah, there's no doxable material there. I've already revealed that I'm Kevin Francis Logan and that I'm a Mister, and that I like audio books. That's true. I do like audio books. I am a member of Audible Premium. And they haven't even paid me for that. I'm not even doing that. Oh, you get one free book every. I'm not even doing that bit. They ain't paying me shit. Unbelievable. Anyway, so that's happened, which is all rather annoying. Or indeed hasn't happened, as indeed is the case. Right, what do we have? Check my link. What am I checking your link for? What is this? Is there a link? Don't forget, you can give me money. Oh, and by the way, I need to turn off the thing, don't I? I need to turn off the noise alerts, because that I don't need that. Free Tommy Robinson. Oh, that's gross. Yeah, that's kind of true, though, Phantom. I'm with you on that. I might show that later. I don't know. I might not. You can just about see. Look how light it is outside. By the way, it's like crazy hot right now. Like I am sweating buckets, mate. You could have delayed the debate until the hat came. That's not an acceptable reason to dodge your debate. Imagine that. Like, I mean, I'd obviously have to lie because there's no fucking way I could possibly I know you're a person who has like a regular job and shit, and this is just like a hobby for you. But can you devote a different night of the week that you have off to me so that I can wear a bowler hat to take the piss a bit? You see, Tommy said Navarra was alright. Oh no. Is that true? Did Tommy Robinson say Navarra Media was alright? Oh, that is gross. Oh, no. I do not enjoy that at all. What is this nonsense? Power up? No, I don't want to fucking power up any. Fuck off, Twitch, you cunt. Welcome, Ruben, for welcome to the Evolution. Much love to you. Don't forget, everybody. He did specifically Bastani. Oh no! Oh, Linky. Linky to the stinky. Speaking of Stephen, check my link. Phantom, I already checked your fucking link, and yes, it's gross. It's a gross thing that you sent me, but also true. But still, shop. Anyway, I need to turn the thing off. That's what I need to do. I'm flustered now. Alert box is off. Right. So, If you wanted to give me to money at the moment, there would be no text-to-speech at the moment until after the debate, because I don't need to be fucking distracted, okay? I need to be on my game. I need to understand things and speak as if I know what the fuck I'm talking about. It's important. It's not really, but it's kind of important. Anyway. Yes. So. Yes, you can, if you're on Twitch, you can, you can hit the follow button. You can subscribe. You can subscribe with Amazon Prime. You can give subs to the community. You can do bits messages. 200 bits or more would get you a text-to-speech, but it won't at the moment, so I'll read it out after the debate. Ditto with super chats via the Streamlabs link below. $2 or more there. Will not be read out by the stupid voice, but I will read it out after we're done. Assuming I know where to find those things. I probably will. Actually, no, the activity feed. Yeah, no, I got it. Anyway. If you're... yes, I've got a YouTube. I do have a YouTube. That's not relevant at the moment. I've got Patreon and PayPal. You can help me out on. I've got Discord. Discord's cool. I've got Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, YouTube, all of that shite, if you're interested. If you're on YouTube, hang on. You can subscribe for now on the YouTube. You can thumb the video up. Cosmic Kev is going to go supernova. Yes. I don't know what I'm talking about. Yes. You can hit the alert button and all that shite for free. You can become a member for 99p, which gives you access to the funny little pictures of me and Rory Cats. I had a dream about Rory Cats. It was the last time I ever held him up to the camera for you. I relived that moment in my dream. And I woke up... How do I describe this? Emotionally tender. Like, not unhappy, not sad or anything, because I'm glad that he was in my life. But bittersweet, you know? Because he's not here anymore. Anyway, doesn't matter. Yes. Yeah, so you can become a member for 99p. You can give memberships to the community at that exact same price, or you can do super chats, which I will read out later. Tommy Robinson said that he started listening to Navarra Media and Aaron Bastani and used to hate Aaron Bastani, but now thinks he's all right. I know Aaron will be over the moon with this.
Do you know who I watched the other day, who I've been watching? What's Navarro Media? What's that?
Right now, I didn't know that.
No, it's a lefty on there, I forget his name. He actually seems all right. I used to hate him. I started watching thinking, well, he's all right.
Wow, that is fucking grim. I mean, look, I don't want to be that guy, but I think I will. Oh, was that very quiet? Apologies, I'll play it again. But louder. So this is Tommy Robinson talking. I won't bother putting it on the screen. Who gives a fuck?
Do you know who I watched the other day, who I've been watching? What's Navarro Media? What's that?
Right now, I didn't know that.
No, it's a lefty on there, I forget his name. He actually seems all right. I used to hate him. I started watching thinking, well, he's all right. He's all right. So.
Yeah, that's. We'll have to. I think I will have to bring that up with No Justice of the MTGs, because that's like, if you're appealing to Tommy 10 names, to the serial criminal that is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, Esquire, you might be a knobhead. You might be a bell piece. I'm just saying, you know. Probably because Aaron wants more cops. True. Also, he defended those people who attacked the mentally ill guy on the fucking tube as well, which is like, it's when populism becomes slightly brainless that you end up with some of those takes. We've had things happen, but no noises because, again, I've switched the thing off. Thank you, Sugana Madik. Lovely name. For subscribing. And thank you to CPND for gifting 10 memberships. Much love to you, my friend. What time is the Thriller in Manila? The Thriller in Manila scheduled to start? Well, now, basically. I've sent him the link. We're waiting on his arrival, essentially. Yeah. He can't stay for too long because he's got another show starting at 7:30. But we should be able to get him for, if he turns up like vaguely on time, for like an hour and a half. Which would be plenty. Like, I could happily talk about this for fucking days. But, you know, short and sweet. For an hour or so, you know. Has he chickened out? I messaged him saying, are you good to start at the top of the hour at like past? And he said, yeah, so... Just come here and say, no, we're not going to do personal attacks tonight, chat. Please try, keep it in your pants, okay? We've got guests. We've got polite company. Please put on some fucking pants. And not the ones with the stains on them. Put on some clean pants. I've washed them and folded them. They're up on your fucking bed. Just put them on, please. Okay? We don't have friends round for tea very often. Just come on now. Can you pretend to put some fucking work into this marriage? Wow, I made that into a psychodrama. Imagine being this when I bowler. I can't put that on the fucking screen. Who put that on? 255. Don't be a melt stick. Alright, but no socks. Get a barb or two in. Well, look, I'm not going to be like super crazy friendly or anything, but you've got to be, I think, personable. I think you've got to, you know, actually have a conversation. There's no point inviting someone on and being like, fuck you, fuck you, you piece of shit. Yeah, no one wants that. Well, actually, no, probably plenty of people want that to happen. There's probably loads of people who would love a fucking blood sports event, but that's not going to happen. I quite assure you. Hello.
All right, 1 second. Tell you what. Hang on. Make that main camera. Hang on.
Your hair's green.
I know. It's unfortunate.
No, it looks nice.
It's genetics on my end.
No, it looks nice. It's like, it reminds me of like when you see the kind of the old punk at the back of the venue watching the band. It's like that. It's beautiful. It's just green on the top. Yeah.
Oh, I know, but yeah. No, I've tried to hang on to my hair as long as possible. Tried to deny my genetic inheritance from my.
Well, exactly the sands of time wait for no man.
I know. Sad. Oh, I always hoped I could have my granddad's hair, but alas, no.
Yeah. Well, there we
my
go.
Dad's got instead in that lottery.
Right. So, I mean, how have you been? Because last time we talked was just before the election, wasn't it? So, like, over a year now.
Yes, yeah, roughly, yeah. I was very drunk at the time.
That's fair enough. It's election season is a stressful one.
I think I'd just been out and out that night as well. So yeah, I was quite drunk a bit in that conversation.
Fair enough. That's absolutely fine. Yes. So I suppose we'll start off light and say, how do you think it's gone for the Labour Party over the last 12 months?
You know, last time I said, you know, it's never such thing as a perfect government, because they've done some things that, you know, I don't like. I don't agree with the direction on the trans issues. I think that's a ridiculous way to go down, the direction that they've gone in that. Not the biggest fan of, you know, West Streeting. but you know, hopefully in the heat he'll melt like a wax figurine. But there you go. And of course we've got what winter fuel allowance. You know, I sort of wish Starmer had stuck to his guns on that in a bit. In a few respects, I think the main conversation should have and always been around where do you put the line? If you are going to make it means test it, where do you put the line?
Right.
I think that's where the conversation should have been. I think that's the conversation they should have always gone for and tried to had. But no, so fortunately you turned on that. I think some of the PIP stuff as well, while the bill, some of the stuff in the bill I actually do quite like. I think the right to try stuff, I think that's really, really good. I think there's a good thing about all the extra money that's going to go into disability stuff in that bill. Obviously quite good. Again, not the biggest fan of cutting people's, you know, personal disability payments. But that got stopped by over 100 Labour rebels.
Okay, so I mean, you make a fairly good argument that it hasn't gone well.
Well, that's just some of the stuff that hasn't gone well. Meanwhile, of course,
by all means, take us through the things that you think have gone well.
So, well, first of all, immediately, Rwanda plan scrapped. Immediately. I think that was a great first opening move to it.
Okay, what I will say, and I agree with you, by the way, I think it was good to get rid of that. I think the reason why it was gotten rid of has been somewhat overlooked. It wasn't because it was illegal or an abomination. It was because it wasn't the most efficient way of being cruel towards migrants.
I don't think it was even that reason. I think it was just the fact that it was a plan everyone knew was not going to work and that was going to be spent a lot of money on basically a plan to send 12 people.
Yeah.
Immigration is, unfortunately, is the hot button topic. I can tell you that.
It certainly is.
It's frustrating. I don't know if you've had any conversations with locals.
Yeah.
But in my area in particular, trying to give people like, hey, why are you focusing on all this, immigration stuff when, this is the case. Most people come here legally. They do follow the rules. They're perfectly fine. People do come here and seek, asylum. The vast majority of them are all asylum seekers. They're not, pretending or anything like that.
Right.
You try to give people these facts, and there really is just a case of, unfortunately, a lot of people just do not care.
Well, that is true,
really worrying.
And I understand why he doesn't have the same policy as I would have, I suppose, on immigration. But do you think, for instance, that such a hot button topic was served particularly well by kind of pseudo quoting the Rivers of Blood speech?
No, really, to be honest. Again, it wasn't the best thing, to be honest. But no. I think this is just the fact that their comms in particular, and this has been a constant thing for me, really, even before the election. Labour comms has always been not very good, to be honest. I think, to be honest, Morgan McSweeney needs to go.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Yeah,
he definitely needs to go. He's done his job. Someone else needs to come in now.
How do you feel, talking of comms, I suppose in a slightly looser sense because it's civil service, but how do you feel about him hiring a former editor of the Sun newspaper and Murdoch press bitch as his communications strategist?
Well, again, interesting take, because I think this is my sort of area of where I work. I work in this sort of particular field. My genuine viewpoint is, you look at the situation we are in now, at the moment, who you are trying to push back against. You're trying to push back a lot against this populist rhetoric. Makes quite a bit of sense to hire someone from the Sun. You might not 100% disagree.
Owned by
disagree with like the person and like where they're coming from, but sort of makes sense to hire maybe someone like that to sort of.
I'm not sure that quite works, because I mean, if populism is about there being a corrupt elite against the people, then surely hiring someone who was the tool of a billionaire who was basically chosen the last dozen prime ministers we've had doesn't seem to me like that's really going to click with the people of Sunderland.
Well, at the end of the day, we'll probably find out. Like I say, his main work is to sort out that messaging, to sort out the comms. So we'll wait and see. Yeah, we'll wait and see what happens, and how he changes any of the potential strategies that might go forward, or he might change the messaging or something like that. I think it's still too soon to sort of tell. His effects on that.
But I think surely it's not just comms though. I think you really do have to look at sort of policy as well. The continuation of austerity has been, I think, particularly grotesque. With we get into the winter fuel thing because I think you had a particularly contrarian take on that. The attacks on disabled people have been madness, frankly. Having a homeless minister who was just outed as making people homeless, didn't realise it was supposed to be a pro-homelessness minister. Surely this doesn't bring the change that people wanted and voted for.
Well, they did get rid of Section 21 notices.
Right, okay.
So, that is, again, another success. They have done that, and I think now the next big battle is if you look at organisations like Shelter, and the other sort of like renters' rights sort of organisations, they're all now gearing up for a fight to go for rent control.
Right.
And I am, again, I've said before, I'm a big believer in rent control. I think it's something very, very much that needs to happen. I think there's maybe a policy point where do you give control? Who controls it? Do you make it a national one, so it's controlled by sort of Westminster? We've now got a load of regional mayors. Do you give it to regional mayors to sort of control? Do you give it to local council? And I think there are for and against arguments for doing that.
Right, but this is sort of pie in the sky because Keir Starmer's never going to do this. The Labour Party is chock full of landlords. They're not going to institute this kind of thing because it's going to cost them money.
Oh no, I think it's absolutely perfectly reasonable to sort of say you can still push for this type of stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, it is, a political party, unless you want to sort of prescribe landlords from being in Parliament, which takes you down a very bad route.
Well, I'm not sure it does. I don't think the idea of divesting from financial investment during the time that you're in Parliament is a particularly extraordinary one. I think it's a conflict of interest, and just saying, "Oh, I have this conflict of interest," doesn't take the conflict of interest away. It just means it's publicly known because it's on the register of interests.
I mean, you have that. You've got all the information on register of interest.
But that doesn't stop the fact that dozens of Labour MPs are also have that conflict of interest. They're not going to institute that because it would cost them.
But then you've got to watch
money.
how they vote. I mean, they all voted to get rid of Section 21 notices.
Right, okay, and I'm not suggesting they won't do what the party leadership tell them to, but do you think for a second that, given the tenor of the way in which they've governed, that Keir Starmer or Morgan McSweeney or Pat McFadden or whoever's pulling the strings there have any interest in something like that? Because I've never heard them even mention it.
Well, again, I don't know at the moment. I think it's very likely maybe this could happen. I think the campaigning around this stuff is starting to sort of kick off around this thing. Who knows? I don't think it'll happen this Parliament. Maybe anything like that at the moment.
Well, it won't happen at all then, because
I think it could happen. I think it absolutely will happen.
Because let's be honest,
I've got more faith in people in Parliament. That's all.
Well, maybe, but I mean, look at the polling. Labour are not going to form a majority government next time. That's pretty obvious at this point. I think it would take a seismic earthquake, the likes of which I can't even imagine.
2029 is a long, long way. Give it time.
Well, actually, if it lasts that long, frankly. Yeah. But yeah, it is a long time. But even if they pull it back a bit, which is, I suppose, reasonable, that's still not a majority territory they're in. Especially with the fact that it's now not a straight two-way fight in most seats anymore.
Well, you say that it could be, minority government, but I think the one party everyone is not really paying attention to at the moment is the Lib Dems.
Right.
There's been a lot of polling recently that says that the Lib Dems are doing actually really well in a lot of the old Tory areas,
Yeah,
but
that
they are
doesn't
also
surprise
the
me.
party that is attracting a lot of dissatisfied Labour people. In fact, they are the biggest attractor of dissatisfied ex-Labour people, according to one recent poll. I think it was last week that came out on that. So any potential parliament you probably could look at might be, maybe it could be, Keir Starmer and Ed Davey.
Okay, there's a couple of points there, I suppose. It's sort of hypothetical, but whatever. Do you think the Lib Dems want to do the same thing they did last time and get into bed with a political party who might shaft them? And secondly, even if this does happen, I can't imagine that a party less economically, historically progressive than the Labour Party, which is the Lib Dems, are going to want to get on board with something like rent control. I mean, Ed Davey was literally a cabinet minister under David Cameron. This is not a progressive economic person we're talking about.
I mean, he may do. It depends when you start to see this sort of stuff, get called for. I think when the campaigns start getting really up to speed in rent control, that's when I think you'll start to see who is going to be supporting what and what exactly.
I hope you're right. I genuinely do. I think that would be a wonderful thing. But this sort of goes back to one of the cruxes of our disagreement last time as well, is that you seem to think that staying inside the Labour Party and fighting for these things is really going to achieve anything. And I would point to the last year of complete and utter failure to change things for the positive within the Labour Party as an example that they have no interest in changing.
So we have had good changes. So, the Tories made it harder to strike. Labour have made it a lot easier. The Tories, tried to force strikers to work. Labour binned it. Thatcher let landlords chuck you out for no reason with Section 21 notices. Labour has ended that. Labour killed the Rwanda plan in instantly 1 month. You want to talk about justice?
To be fair, that was
Northern Ireland inquest ban.
To be
free speech fine stuff.
To be a couple of points I do have to raise. Firstly, the Rwanda policy was already before the election, so that's not a policy of change as such. That was already sort of a pre-existing plan. No one pushed them to that. That was a thing. One of the very few, unfortunately, things he did claim to do and then actually did. And secondly, when it comes to workers' rights, the bill having been watered down is very disappointing. But secondly, even though, like you say, I think it has been made slightly easier, you still have the slip of the tongue, I suppose. You still have the Labour Health Secretary calling for healthcare workers to cross a picket line.
Yeah, again, I don't agree with, West Street, so you're not going to get any disagreement with me on that.
Okay, but you seem to disagree with so much and yet want to stay in a political party that seemingly don't represent you.
But they do, more than they don't. There are lots of progressive groups in Labour. I think we sort of said this before. I mean, there is still, again, momentum. There's Open Labour, there's the socialist campaign groups, Compass, Fabian Society, Labour for the Green New Deal.
Right, but the Labour left have been gutted. Let's be honest. Is it 12 MPs? The last count I had have been suspended, and they've all been left MPs. Really, it seems the kind of factionalism of the pre-election days hasn't really stopped.
Well, that's political party. That's how normal things go. There will always be, factionalism. I think Starmer.
But I was told under Corbyn this was Stalinism. You were gulagging people. This is a terrible thing.
Well, again, I didn't agree when this happened to Corbyn either. I think he's been a bit too heavy-handed, to be honest. I think he's not desperately, but he's tried to sort of, I think, enforce parliamentary discipline, particularly after, God knows how many years of bizarre, strange Tory governments that we've had.
But exclusively by getting rid of
discipline. I think there is a sense of discipline. Yeah. I think there is kind of an importance to it when it comes to that.
Right, but exclusively by getting rid of the four most sort of left-wing MPs that were sort of left in Parliament.
But you still have lots of left-wing MPs in Parliament.
You have some certainly, but I mean, again, his answer isn't ever to go after the kind of centre of the party or the right of the party. It's exclusively his guns are aimed at Diane Abbott and those sorts of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So that's So the idea that you can push him to the left when, like, if this guy was any more right wing,
you campaign for stuff.
Crazy.
You campaign for stuff you want, and doing it within a party is always the best idea to do it. Particularly now that this is the party in power.
Well, in office. I don't like the term in power. That suggests a domination, and they are our servants, not our masters. But that's a slightly different digression. Okay, so we have to get on to, I think, Keir Starmer's foreign policy.
Yep.
I think we largely agree on Ukraine. I don't think that needs to even be gone into particularly, which might sound flippant.
I'm not looking forward to what happens in Alaska. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, no, it looks like it's very unpleasant. Yeah. But by and large, I think we agree, so we can put that to one side. The other horrible issue, of course, is what's going on in Israel/Palestine right now. Are you comfortable with the Keir Starmer/David Lammy acquiescence to genocide?
Well, they've put sanctions on, Jewish settlers. They've actually been quite diplomatic, even though, again, I don't think people want them to be a lot harsher. Diplomatically, when you look at what they're saying, it's pretty much, hey, you need to stop this. We've got the recognition of Palestine coming up in September, which is, again, what a lot of people have been calling for quite some time. So that's finally happening.
Right, but why delay till September, and why caveat it with if Israel agrees to a ceasefire?
Because I've said this before, we in the UK do not have
okay, but
leverage.
Well, I think that's actually an argument more for doing it, because again, I don't think we have any real leverage. I think this ultimately is if the President of the United States decides to do a thing. We aren't the global superpower we once were. We can't call the shots in Palestine as we did a century ago. Yeah. So, but the point therefore is holding it up as leverage when it isn't leverage, because realistically they don't care. They'll make a big noise about it because, of course, Israel always makes a big noise about anything that's vaguely against them. But just do it then. Just do it, because it shouldn't be used as leverage when it's not leverage. It's not realistically even soft power. All it is using a thing that should be a right of a sovereign people, the Palestinian people, to have a state, and using it as some sort of bargaining chip with the government that's currently killing them.
What else do we do then?
Well, do the righteous thing. Stop defending them at the UN constantly.
I mean, I still think that Israel is still going to continue regardless.
Oh, probably so. And I don't think for a second. But we could do right. What we could do is say, okay, they're killing the people, they're starving them to death. Shall we stop sending them weapons? We can't. This is not conscionable. It would not have been okay to send the Rwandan people weapons during their genocide. It would not have been okay to arm the Germans during their genocide. This is not a remotely acceptable thing to do. It's also not acceptable to use spy planes from RAF Akrotiri over southern Gaza as well, which has been happening and continue to happen. This isn't just...
What are those spy planes being used for?
Well, we don't really know, and that's sort of part of the problem.
How do we not know that those spy planes are like the big reason why we don't know about all these atrocities?
Wang, are you suggesting that they're doing this as news gathering?
I think, in my opinion, from what I have seen, I think these surveillance flights are more being used in basically an attempt to sort of say, we are watching Israel, we can see what you're doing.
Right, but they're also clearly communicating that information to Israel. So, like, this isn't... Again, that's a nonsensical argument, because we're literally giving the information we get from Israel to Israel
by the UN.
Right, but we don't have to acquiesce to that. We don't have to do that. There's no, we haven't signed an agreement with them where we have to give them any information. We have decided of our own goodwill that we're going to do that. Why? When they're clearly using some of that information to kill innocent people.
Again, don't agree with it.
So again, it's another thing that I would think would be a deal breaker. If I was friends with a person who was like sending information to a murderer, I'd say, you know what, mate, I don't want to hang out anymore.
It's a bit extreme example.
It's not extreme in the slightest, because a murderer could only kill so many people. Benjamin Netanyahu is swimming in Palestinian blood, and apparently Keir Starmer was absolutely fine with that.
It's not a deal breaker because there's more important things to do on here in the country as well to do. I would rather, again, get more stuff done here in the country, campaigning within the Labour Party, and also push for, again, more help for the Palestinians on that front, than be on the outside. And that's just how I feel. That's how I see it.
Okay, so what about... so you want to focus on national policy, internal policy. How about the Labour Party's attack on trans people's rights?
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with needing to go, needing
a
driver's license to go for a shit?
Again, don't agree with that.
So again, it's a fundamental undermining of British people's rights by a government that you still somehow support. It doesn't make sense to me.
You can still support a government even though you disagree with them.
Right, but this isn't some minor disagreement about tax and spend policy. This is they're undermining the rights of people abroad, and they're undermining British people's rights as well.
And you can still push to sort of help those people from within the Labour Party.
But it's gotten worse. You clearly can't do so effectively.
Worse, but again, you can still.
You can't do so effectively because
still push for them.
If you could, you would have. I don't deny your intention. I don't deny. I'm not for a second suggesting that you're bullshitting me here. You genuinely want this and are fighting for it. But it's been so ineffectual to the point of basically making no real difference, and it's gotten significantly worse in significant areas, that it doesn't seem to me that the Labour Party under the current leadership are not just capable but willing, even negotiating that change.
In the party to push for, push for that.
Right, but you are in the party and you are pushing
and
for
pushing
it,
for that,
and it's gotten you nowhere.
You still got to do it. You don't win every battle. You've got to keep on.
What battle? Okay. What battles have you won?
So again, we've got rid of Section 21 notices, which I think are good. You've got most really. So the stuff just from the housing stuff that we've got public ownership of rail by the end of this Parliament. The NHS is
that's public ownership of the franchises. We don't own the rolling stock, of course. That's still private.
Yeah, well, again, hey, one step at a time.
Why one step at a time? Why? Why not do the whole thing? We clearly need to. It's a failed system.
Why the rush?
Because people are alive now. People are alive now. There is the will. There is the will from the British people. Even fucking Tories want the nationalisation of the rail because it's clearly failed. And yet the Labour Party, the supposedly socialist party,
by the end of this Parliament will be nationalised.
Well, no, again, the franchises will be nationalised. The rolling stock won't
and that will still be good.
No, it will be slightly better, but it will still be private companies potentially holding us hostage over the rolling stock.
So
our people buying train tickets will still be funding the trains in Belgium.
It's either everything or nothing. There is no.
No. I'm not suggesting that this isn't a better situation than it was before, but it's this kind of tinkering at the edges, small mindset, which I think has beset this entire government.
But why step forward one step at a time?
No, I'm not suggesting don't do anything. I'm suggesting you could and should do the obvious thing, which is just nationalise that entire system, because it has failed under privatisation, which, it should be an open goal for a Labour leader. Okay, but they're not going to get in the next election because they've been so timid at best and, frankly, terrible at worst that people hate them. Look at the numbers. His personal rating is less than herpes at this point. It's ridiculous. That's a joke, by the way. But you know what I mean? The Labour Party's polling numbers right now are really very, very bad. Right? To the point where I think you did a stream the other... No, not you. Graham and Phil did a stream the other day talking about whether Keir Starmer should be gone. Now, I don't think they're going to, and I don't think that was necessarily a sensible suggestion, but the fact that Labour Party people are having those discussions tells you that not all is right, and you've only been in power for a year. Sorry, office for a year, whatever.
They might change leadership. That is entirely possible.
So we're
I'd be open
streeting.
to that. I think that would be fine. Again, it's not guaranteed.
Who would you prefer?
Well, Angela Rayner might be quite good. I think Angela Rayner would be a really good PM.
Okay.
Clive Lewis. That will be fun if he throws his hat in the ring. that will be very good, I think. My own MP again, Dan Jarvis. He's been talked about before, putting his hat in the ring in previous elections. You know, I think there's a lot of candidates you can talk about that would be good.
Okay. And what do you think the likelihood is of them changing tack?
I suppose it will be maybe 2026 when we see that. I think it's going to depend on the results of the local elections there and the Welsh Senate elections.
Okay. What do you make of Andy Burnham potentially?
Yeah, Andy Burnham again, but he's got to get in Parliament.
You know? Yeah, I mean, I think of a couple of cities.
Again, Andy Burnham would be really good. I do think Andy Burnham would be really good as well. But like I say, once he's in Parliament, absolutely. But his term, I think, finishes. Is it 27 or 28? I think his term ends.
Yeah, he's got a bit of time to
Something
go.
like that. Yeah, so he does got a bit of time, but then you've got to try and get a by-election to happen potentially as well if you want to get him in Parliament.
Well, the number of MPs being fired by all parties, whether it be Reform or Labour or Tory, there are plenty of by-elections coming up.
There's plenty of by-elections.
Yeah.
There's always plenty of by-elections, although there's a bit extra with the Reform people.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah, they've gone from 5 to 4 to 5 to 4 MPs. They've elected 6 and they've got 4 of them, so that's a third they've lost.
If you want chaos, and I generally say this, if you want real chaos, have a look at what's going on in these reform-controlled councils.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy. Warwickshire next door to me. Warwickshire is absolutely insane. Don't put a 19-year-old in charge of £1 billion fucking council. It's ridiculous.
Did you see the vote?
No, what's this?
The vote on it was insane. So it basically came down to a tied vote. It was 23 versus 23.
Right.
And at that point, under the rules, chairman gets to decide. Who's the chairman? It's a reform guy.
Oh, God.
So, of course, he's going to go with the reform. We actually had one of the guys, Councillor Conditor, on from Warrington a couple of weeks back from the Green Party. We had him on to talk about
from Warrington?
Going in Warrington, yeah.
I was talking about Warwickshire.
Councillor for, not Warrington. Yeah. Sorry. I get these two places confused all the time.
No, that's fair. No, I was wondering. I was like, that's not anywhere near Warwickshire. That's okay. Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Yeah. No, he's Councillor for Nuneaton.
Nuneaton, lovely place. Yeah.
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 So yeah. So we had a good sort of conversation about that. But it is crazy.
I'll
and
have to check
insane.
that out. Yeah.
I think.
Well, and you have Andrea Jenkins doing her thing as well. Yeah.
He also said that there was apparently some guy from like Reform HQ in the room as well.
Wow, that's not very Gestapo at all.
Yeah, it's very, I think, clear to me he is being puppeted. Also, did you see his? Well, we won't talk about it because you can get in trouble because it is again contempt of court. But yeah, his comments he made in a recent appearance with Nigel Farage. Potentially got him in trouble, so that could be interesting if that all decides to start kicking off.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is interesting time there for sure.
Well, this is sort of my contention, and I think this is why I wanted to talk to you, broadly speaking, because I think you made a video which I'd responded to and sort of watched on the stream about. I think it was something to do with the Corbyn party, the new thing, and how that was potentially going to let reform in. Now,
again, I'm not 100% sure that it might do, but it depends how the vote goes. Depends how the vote gets split.
Well, there's certainly a chance that they're going to take a fair amount of votes off Labour in traditional heartlands. There's no doubt about that. But my contention, I think, with you and with people like yourself who've made similar points, is that ultimately the Labour Party, if it loses the next election, will have deserved to lose the next election on right. Now, that is not to say that Reform are going to be good, because I'm genuinely worried about them. But you'll have essentially not provided the change you promised and lost on your own merits. Because ultimately it's not splitting the left vote when Keir Starmer isn't on the left.
I think it's more about splitting the vote overall. I mean, if you look at the left vote in general in the UK, I think we again talked about this last time. There's that chart that is something like how you divide voters up,
Right.
and it's like 25% on the right, 25% on the left, and then in the middle you've got the massive like 35% who consider themselves centrist.
I think that's a rather old school way of looking at it. I think things have polarised in the last 20 years.
Again,
Certainly
even
post-Brexit, I think.
I think well, the last time that was done, I think it was 2019.
Right.
And actually, the centrists went from 30% to 35%.
Right.
So, you know, we are unfortunately outnumbered by centrists, like it or not. And you've got to work with them. You've got to appeal to them as well.
Well, that's fine, but it seems to me that the party, like Keir Starmer came out and said, if you don't like the changes we've made, the door is open, you can leave. So people left, and now they're being chastised by people for having left. To quote one anonymous source, I think it is at Labour HQ, they wanted to shake off the fleas. Okay, well the fleas aren't going to vote for you then, are they?
Well, that's how voting works. You know, if you don't like the party, don't vote for it.
Well, exactly, but that's the point. But then you'll be chastised as, oh, you're letting reform in. No. If you lose, it's because more people wanted to vote for reform than vote for you.
And the thing is, it's a hypothetical at the moment. We'll see what happens when 2029 happens.
Well, no, absolutely,
If there is, and there are seats where another party could have won. It might not even be necessarily Labour. It could be the Lib Dems. Maybe it could even be a Green Party potentially.
Yeah.
What if it pulls votes away from them?
Okay, well you didn't give the left any reason to vote for you. You literally said that they could leave. Not you, Keir Starmer said that you could leave. So why would they vote for you?
And I think it comes down to voting itself. I think at the next election there is going to be very, very clear that we both don't want a reform government.
Okay,
you might have to not vote for the party you necessarily want to vote for if you don't want a reform government.
Okay, but I've been used to people saying the same thing about the Tories, right? So they used to say you have to vote Labour to keep the Tories out, and there was a certain power to that, a pull factor to that.
Again, it wasn't just the Tories, it was the Lib Dems as well.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That's why tactical voting was important. The big thing is data at the end of the day, and it's getting data, that information out to the people in those constituencies, those area.
Yeah.
This is the party you need to vote for.
But in saying now that you're you have to vote for us to stop reform, is that in a sort of way a sort of tacit admission from the Labour Party that they have become the small c Conservative Party in the British structure?
Again, I don't think they have really become like the small c Conservative Party, but I'm sure you'll disagree with me. But I don't think they have. I think
they've continued. They've continued a number of their sort of austerity type policies, haven't they?
Well,
the two-child benefit cap was a very easy open goal for them, and they didn't bother. They kept that cruel Tory policy.
The upcoming budget is, I think, going to be interesting. There's talks now of taxing gambling companies.
Right. Okay, that's fine. I think that will
be a very model good for society if you start taxing the gambling companies. There is increased calls now for a wealth tax coming from within Labour. I think that is very, very good to see.
How likely do you think that is, given, let's say, his propensity for taking money from rich people and changing policy on that basis?
That all depends, again, on the support that comes for supporting that policy, which, again, I will support, and I will write to, my MPs.
Right, but it doesn't really, does it? Because, again, there's massive support, even amongst Tory voters. There is a majority of people who want to full nationalisation of the railways, and they don't do that. So clearly, what the people want, or even what the party want, seems irrelevant to what Downing Street does. Lord Ali seems to have far more sway than 70 million Britons.
Well, again, if you want it, you've got to campaign for it.
Right, but you don't achieve these things within the Labour Party. That's clear. They've made that very obvious that they're not interested in making these progressive changes.
Nationalisation by the end of this,
partial nationalisation. Yeah.
Partial nationalisation.
True, but even the Tories had started the nationalising or taking in-house of the franchises, so it's not like that's a particularly radical or, progressive policy. The Tories were starting that. Now, whether they'd have gone all the way that the Labour Party have, who knows? But frankly,
again, I doubt they would have.
Well, I mean, who knows? If a majority of their voters wanted it, it's not impossible, I suppose.
And that's where it comes down to. It comes down to, supporting the policies that you want. You don't necessarily have to agree 100% with the party to be a member of it.
But I've brought up a lot of, I think, very big issues which you just say, well, I disagree with that, which is fine. You can disagree with that. But if you disagree with so many very core parts of public policy, I don't know why you think the Labour Party is your home, because it clearly isn't.
Because that's the party that is in power, and that's the party that I still believe is again very, very progressive. There's lots of still very progressive MPs in there.
In what areas can I ask? Are they progressive?
Okay, so you want to look at what happened yesterday, because what happened yesterday was quite actually interesting.
Okay.
The Labour for PR came out yesterday and said that, thanks to once again their campaigning and they're pushing for it, that a push for changing the voting system dominated the national policy for it.
Okay.
Which is good, because again, I think we can both agree we want to change the sort of the voting system. Doing that type of thing, doing that campaigning, getting into the national policy system is good. You've now got the old parliamentary group of like 120 something, maybe a slightly bit bigger than that, of MPs for pushing for voting reform. Not only just from Labour, in fact, a vast majority of them, 50% of them, are from Labour, but largest party. So that's good. But yeah, we want to see stuff like that. That's sort of the stuff you've got to do. It's sort of the stuff you've got to keep on campaigning for. You've got to keep on pushing for it, time and time again.
But even in terms of reform of constitution and all that, that you haven't managed to make them more progressive, and they've gotten worse. The original plan was to get rid of the House of Lords. That was scrapped. They said they were going to have interim.
They have got rid of all the hereditary peers.
Well, exactly. They've said they're going to be there's going to be temporary heritage. But
and now we're getting the commission on what to do. Like, what are we going to do with the House of Lords? And one of the
firstly,
do the commission is complete.
Okay, and we'll wait and see on that. But like he's continued the same policy that every prime minister falls into, of being sort of against the Lords at first because they stand in the way of the elected chamber, and then stuffing it with your mates. Thangam Debonair springs to mind, for instance.
The Lords is I generally think, when you look at sort of wanting to reform the Lords, I think it's a lot more difficult task than I think people give it. I don't.
You could try.
It's going to be sort of as easy. I really do want sort of them to sort of push for this. I've said before that if we do want to change our voting system, I think the real target we should be going for, or at least most campaigners group go solely and focus on Westminster. I think we should be looking at House of Lords, because House of Lords, again, across all parties, is needs reform. Yeah. Even the Lords themselves agree that the House of Lords needs reform. There was a really cool article a couple of years ago about Lords discussing House of Lords reform.
Yeah,
and how frustrated they are with the fact that they themselves cannot agree on reform.
Yeah. Well, this is the problem, and I think this goes to the core of what the Labour Party's issue is. Essentially, it's outsourcing of policy to quangos. How many commissions have been set up? How many inquiries? How many boards of inquest? Like, just have a policy and try and get it through. You have a massive majority in the Commons. Now, I'm not saying that getting it through the Lords is necessarily that easy, which is part of the reason you need to stop the reform, stop the Lords from being an undemocratic.
I agree with you on that. My biggest sort of disappointment is I really want them to be a heck of a lot more brave using their majority. One thing that again frustrates me was going back to the winter fuel allowance stuff.
Yeah, we did want to get onto this because your thing was, I think, the exact opposite of my point. You said that you thought you would hope they'd stick to their guns with the initial policy that was incredibly unpopular. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I do believe the winter fuel allowance should be means tested.
Why?
It is very, very obvious there are a lot of pensioners who just really, so we say, well off as not to need the winter fuel allowance.
Yeah.
And I think giving them that is a waste of money. I think we can agree on that.
Right, but as is always the case with means testing, there are a number of issues. Firstly, there's the kind of weird bureaucratic element of it, where you often end up not saving all that much at all because you have to employ so many more people to do the means testing. Secondly, you're going to have people fall through the cracks.
The means testing, from what it was, from what I wanted it to be, was how much, like, where the money that you are receiving. And I think that's sort of where it should be. We saw, of course, a lot of people sign up to pension credit.
Right. But some don't.
And again, some don't. Some don't get it.
Some people are going to fall through the cracks. Yeah.
Well, no, again, I think that should be where the conversation should have always been. Where is that line? Where do you draw that line? And that's the conversation that didn't happen.
Okay, but the problem you have is... attacking the universality of it means, I think, undoubtedly there are going to be people fall through the cracks. And frankly, I don't really care if Mick Jagger gets 500 quid for his heating, as long as all of the poor people who need it get it. And secondly, you can tax it back later. You don't have to do this weird bureaucratic, like, penny pinching nonsense thing of, like, and of course it's just an awful communications nightmare. But one of the very first things they did, and it became the story of the kind of late summer into the autumn, was this, they want to freeze Granny, which wasn't the plan, but that's what it got spun as. Because again, it's the Tory press. That's what they're going to do. So don't give them the own goal. Don't give them that don't give them that ammunition. Just have it as a universal benefit, so all pensioners don't freeze. That's a good thing. And then tax it back from, Mick Jagger or Rod Stewart or, rich people who don't need it. You can tax that money back later. It's not a problem.
This, to me, once again shows, unfortunately, that the voting bloc in particular, for old people, is still incredibly powerful.
Ludicrously so, yeah.
Because you've got the infamous 2017 election, which became the winter fuel allowance general election, if you remember that.
Yes.
That almost defeated, Theresa May.
Yeah, the death tax thing? Yeah.
Yeah. You've got, again, this, and it worries me for the fact that what if you want to, for example, undo the triple lock? You look at a lot of economists, experts that are out there that are like, the triple lock is going to quickly become very, very much unsustainable.
Yeah.
You need to undo it. What happens then when you try to undo it and you get this kind of backlash, especially when you've got a party like Reform, which at the last local elections, they pretty much ran on the fact, going around doing all their leafleting, oh yeah, if you vote for us, they'll undo the winter fuel allowance.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Yeah. And absolutely. Well, people forget. I mean, when we talk about the ballooning benefits bill, the vast majority of benefits are beyond working age benefits. I think is the terminology or whatever. Basically, pensions. Right. That's the vast majority of it. And yet, the only thing that never ever gets touched is pensions, because you can't, because it's electoral suicide. Because old people vote.
I think that's why I wish they had stuck to their guns. I think it should have been means tested. I still think it should have been means tested.
But again, that's people are going to fall through the cracks, man. I don't. It just seems like a sort of.
Where's that crack? How much?
Well, the number of
that crack out?
Okay, but the number of people, and it was already admitted by them, the number of people that didn't apply for pension credit, that would have gotten it but didn't for whatever reason. Older people are set in their ways. They're not necessarily very good with filling in forms, or they just don't want to. They just don't want to apply for this thing. And if you set it at that, it means that people who are poorer, who do need that extra help, aren't going to get it. And it doesn't matter to me whether it's 10 people or 10,000.
Because the whole point of the winter fuel allowance is to make sure that poor pensioners get that allowance. And I think that's where, again, you've got to look at it and go, right, where does the line need to be drawn? where does that benefit need to be?
But it's so
How we
much
make it easier?
easier.
If it is hard, how easy can we make it?
It's so much easier to just tax the tiny amount, because when we're talking about very rich people who don't need it, if they're not going to heat a mansion or whatever, the amount of tax extra you would have to put on them is minuscule. Just do that later.
As you just said, how can they tax it back when you just said doing that will be electoral suicide?
Well, no, because again, you're doing it to
You-
like a
you
tiny
know
number of people. We're talking about like a few thousand people who probably
Yeah, but,
aren't going to vote Labour
instantly,
anyway.
I mean, you can just see the headlines already.
Well, it can't possibly
farmers
be
taxing
worse.
granny.
It cannot possibly be
tax.
worse than what actually happened, which was he wants to freeze Granny was the only thing that was talked about for months because they went off on parliamentary vacation, and so the only story in town was they're freezing Granny, they're freezing Granny. So how the hell was they're taxing Mick Jagger a worse headline for them? How can that possibly be a worse headline than what they
it was
actually
always,
got?
Again, the conversation should and always have been, this is where the line needs to be. People aren't gonna, freeze. If you need that, credit, and you are.
Well, no,
that,
people
you
could
deserve that.
freeze. Whereas if you just have it universal, they won't.
But again, I don't think it should be universal.
But why? Why does it matter? Also, like, just on a basic level, I don't really give a fuck particularly whether, like I say, rich people get this thing as long as everyone gets it. That's the point of universality, really. I suppose is that no one falls through the cracks.
But again,
it saves such a small. It's such a small, like, tiny bit of nitpicking nonsense. It was going to save at best 1.5 billion, and then we announced 2 months ago an extra 80 billion on defence. Like, come on, no one's buying this nonsense.
But okay, well, that's money that could have gone into other things for pensioners. It could have gone into a lot of other.
But what, the 80 billion? Yeah, no, I quite agree. It could have. Yes, it could have gone into a lot of things, and it won't.
Well,
It'll go into the.
Have to really, unfortunately, spend a lot more on defence thanks to Donald Trump and depending what happens on Friday. So yeah. We are probably going to have to spend, unfortunately, a lot more on defence.
Okay, but then, like, if that's the case, like, what are we defending as a nation exactly? Like, a nation of freezing pensioners and stuff. Like, no one buys that you have to like scrape back this 1.5 billion when they're giving 3 billion a year to Ukraine for 100 years, which is a weird bill. That's a weird fucking thing to sign, but whatever. Like, people aren't going to put up with that, and the problem is. You give a completely open goal to reform because they're saying, oh, look, he's giving 3 billion to Vladimir Zelensky and freezing pensioners. You're giving him perfect, almost like scripted. If he could write Labour policy to best suit his narrative, it would be stuff like this.
Again, I still think it should have been means tested. I think this is just a disagreement we're not going to get over, to be honest. But
okay, no, that's fair enough. Okay, so I know you've got to go reasonably soon. So if we sort of wrap up with what do you hope to achieve with Labour, say, over the next year?
Sort of for me, obviously next year, local elections going to be super important, super important. I don't want a reform council. To be honest, if you've been keeping an eye on what's been going on in these reform councils, they're doing nothing. And that might sound like, a good thing that they're doing nothing, but trust me, they're doing nothing. That means there's grant money not being done, decisions not being taken. Eventually, they're going to come up into some serious problems because, they have to make a decision, and, well, they're not there to make the decision. So me, sort of, personally, I'm going to be out in my local area doing basically what I can to sort of do that. I think Labour in my area has done a really good job recently in the town square and what they've done on that area. I think it's been absolutely fantastic. I think the 2030 plan is great. I think it's a great direction to sort of take the town. There's some community wealth building going on in all that as well. So that's where I'm going to sort of be doing my efforts for the next sort of year or so.
So not so much about trying to change Labour's policy.
To me, my immediate threat is local elections and not having a reform council.
No, that's fair, but like, is that short-termism at the detriment of the long-term turnaround in Labour's fortunes, because again, the numbers are going in one direction and it's not positive.
Well, again, 2029 is a long way away.
Well, true, but next year isn't, and the year after isn't.
Yeah.
You know,
we'll have to see. I still think it's still way too early to be making any kind of predictions for like the 2029 election. I think it's way too far off.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you have elections in local councils and stuff basically every year, and you have by-elections as well. And the Labour Party not facing wipeout in some areas.
No, not in all the areas.
Well, no, I didn't say all. I said some of the areas.
Again, depends which area. That's where sort of, particularly for me, like I say, in my local area, I really do not want a reform council, purely because I think the current Labour administration have really gotten the town into a really good state at the moment. They've got some. Really
Is there a
good plans
possibility, like a realistic possibility of reform? I don't want you to dox yourself, but like.
So again, unfortunately, my town decided to have a referendum because we used to do 2 tranches of elections. So we've got a total of 63 councillors, I believe it is, something around there. And we do them in 2. So you'd have 30 and then 2 years and another 30. We've now decided to go, okay, what do you people want to do? And the good people of Barnsley voted for all 63 at once.
Right. Okay.
My best sort of effort is really sort of making sure I'm getting out there. Really getting out there, door knocking, and making sure that people are aware of like what their candidates have been up to, what they've been doing. I'm sure you're aware of yourself just how bad like perception is of local government in general.
Yes.
It's very bad.
Well,
a lot of councillors get a lot of stick that they do not deserve.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, you're talking probably to a denizen of the wrong city at the moment, because we've got a Labour council at war with a union, which means we're now swimming in trash.
Oh yes, yeah.
So that's very pleasant. Honestly, the decade of renewal doesn't feel very good so far in Brom, I have to say.
Well, I am all about hopium and hope. I know I annoy a lot of people about this, but I don't mind. My politics and my sort of view on politics is always to be sort of hopeful. I think you get more done looking at things through that area and lens of politics, and it keeps you going in the long run.
But when does hopium become copium?
It's never hopium to begin with. I think you've got to be active. I think you've got to get out there. I would always encourage my audience, write to your MP. Commit to writing to them at least like 3 times a year about a topic, about a subject, something that matters to you. Go and see them in the surgeries. MPs get very few visitors in their surgeries. Go to your local town council. Speak to your local councillors.
Okay, but what about if your local
in politics?
What about if your local MP is Nigel Farage and he's never been there?
Well,
you can't go to a surgery that doesn't exist. So
thank you to the local Labour Party. They've actually managed to keep some of their local offices they had in that area still running, and they're actually providing all that information that Nigel Farage's office and what they should be providing to the people of Clacton.
See, that's positive, because he's been to America more than he's ever been to Clacton.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to see what happens to Nigel. He's been putting a lot of pressure and effort on Kent.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the guy who got fired.
No.
So there was Nigel made a grand trip to Kent a couple of months back. And immediately after, the day later, all the sort of ministers got basically given their marching orders. The guy who was in charge of, I believe it's roads and highways, said, no, I'm not going to do that. And basically was told to if you stand up and leave, you will be fired. To which they then put out an interesting press release of, oh, don't worry, he left on very amicable terms. To which he then replied, no, I was never left on any amicable terms. I was ambushed and in a very, very heated meeting, which is, again, fascinating if you want to go read about that. But yeah, I think he's putting a lot of pressure on Kent, and it wouldn't surprise me if at the next election he changed constituencies down to Kent.
Well, he's fought in Kent before, of course.
Yeah.
Oh God, what's the seat called? It doesn't really matter. Anyway, he's fought a Kent seat in the past. But this is sort of the problem I have with or one of the functional problems I have. He's very Trumpian in that he doesn't want to put any work in. Now, in the American system, it's slightly different. You know, you have, I think you can sort of get by having a president that's sort of incapacitated. One thinks of late stage Reagan, for an example of that, or indeed late stage Biden, I suppose. Whereas in Britain, you need to be on the ball. And he doesn't like doing once a month meetings in Clacton. You know, you have to do several meetings every day as Prime Minister.
Do you know how the story of Lee Anderson, how he survived?
Didn't he dig his way out of shit with a spoon or something? Oh no, that was Shawshank Redemption. Sorry, wrong movie. Yeah.
Well, you know, everyone remembers, of course, he got fired, you know, from the Conservatives, and then he went and joined Reform, and people remember he went absolutely almost radio silence. He sort of almost disappeared off the radar.
Yes.
For like a good period. That was because he actually went and started doing work in his local constituents, and really started like getting in there and working in his local area. That's how he managed to survive. Whether Farage will be able to pull that same, you know, miracle out of a hat, who knows? But
well, I don't know. He seems he's rather a louche character. He likes to drink and party and not turn up for work, which, you know, isn't a great look for a prime minister, really.
There's already been a couple of videos of, I think, people have gone around actually interviewing them. They're not happy.
Yeah,
they're not happy.
Well, they shouldn't be, because, like, regardless of the politics of an individual member of parliament, they should care. They should try. They should put in the work. You're paying them £80,000 a year. No one forced them to do this. This is something you have to, you know, work for. The least you can do is put in some effort.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah.
Like, people should care. People should care about who their MP is, their councillors, etc.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't. I think it's a great missed opportunity that, like, candidate selection, I think is not you know, opened up. I do understand sometimes maybe having to parachute people in. Maybe there isn't a good enough candidate in the area, etc. But surely then you can train people to be better candidates. Maybe get them on the council, see how they do as a local councillor. All this type of stuff that is, you know, I think really important to sort of democracy as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll end on that amicable note, and say, thank you for coming on.
Sure, no problem.
Hopefully
Anytime.
this wasn't too confrontational. And
no, it was all right now.
Yeah, and we'll maybe convene in another year and see how things have gone.
I will bang the gavel. I will bang the gavel. Yes, set the next AGM date.
Will do. Thank you for coming on, BowlerHatMan. Much love.
Cool, excellent. No, like I say, thank you for having me. Like I say, anytime. I'm more than happy to have conversations and anything like that. You know, I am unfortunately from Yorkshire. I am cursed with wanting to have conversations and speak and talk with people. So it is a curse and a cross that I have to carry.
Well, indeed so. And we'll speak another time. Have a good one.
Excellent. You too.
Bye bye.
See ya.
Well, that was disgracefully good, wasn't it? Look at that. They're still not delivering till tomorrow. Pricks. Ah. Keep the hat for next year. Yeah, I might do. I might incorporate the hat into the costume. Maybe I could sew the hat onto the crab costume or something, and then I get to wear it every so often when we do a crab thing. Anyway, that was interesting, wasn't it? I'm going to turn the alert box back on now. I don't know if things happened or not. We'll see. Kev, what the fuck was that? That was that was political discourse in 2025. By the way, everyone go and follow Lesbian Hot Sauce, who is awesome. They had a good stream the other day about sex. I watched part of that. It was very good. They had an expert on and everything. It was lovely. What's this? Hey everyone, can you do some funny with BowlerHatMan and Renee Magritte's frequently depict character? I can't think of exactly what would be hiding BHM Man's face. That's okay, Phantom. Yeah. You need to cut out the Vorderman next year. So you need a cutout of Vorderman next year. Why? What? I don't get that. I don't get that. How do you think I did, chat? Is the most important thing, because the only thing that matters to me is me. So you can you do that. By the way, I didn't want to pass up Jim Speak's MP for Zawatanejo line, because I did a joke about Shawshank Redemption, which doesn't really work. I just realised that joke doesn't work at all from me. It's nothing like it. But I just wanted to do something silly. But the joke of MP for Zawatanejo, which by the way is the little town that Andy, what's his fucking surname? Andy Dufresne escapes to in Mexico. So that's a funny line. That's very funny. You destroyed him with facts and logic. Kev, I do not like that man. That's fair enough. I wouldn't expect you to, Lesbian Hot Sauce. Vorderman is a libby lib. Oh, I see what... Oh, okay, I see what you've done there. I see what you've done. She is very libby, yes. Oh. It is a shame I didn't have the fucking hat, but as you can see, I've been done over. What the fucking hell? Okay. Okay, that's me in a bowler hat, apparently. There you go. So, yes, you can give me money in the form of bits and subs and subscriptions and super chats and all of that good stuff. The noise alerts are back on, so if you wanted to check out that, you can. Thank you to Sugonomadik for becoming a member for 2 months. Much love. There on the YouTubes. Now, this, I did want to look at this as well, right? I'll probably cut out that debate and put it up on YouTube as well, because I think that actually went quite well. I liked my more measured tone. I could have been rude. Didn't need to go to that place. We're not here for blood sports. Anyway, William Dalrymple, superb British historian, writer as well. If I could advise you to read one book, and one book only, about Britain's role in India, I would advise you to read his book, The Anarchy, which going back to it, I didn't technically read, I listened to on audio, on Audible. That's literally true, by the way. Anyway, you can read the Anarchy, it's called, right, which is about the British East India Corporation, or British East India Company, sorry, and its formation, its foundation, its development, and what it did in India. Because people forget this, right? People forget that it wasn't just Britain in India, right? It was Britain in a British company in India, a British private industry. Look, people think America have got this kind of corporate imperialism thing down to a T. No. Britain was doing that centuries ago. A private corporation with dickheads in red fucking uniforms, thousands of them, right? They had, I think at one point, the 4th largest army on Earth. Again, a private corporation, not a country. And ruled over much of what we now know as India and Pakistan and bits of Afghanistan and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, and yeah, it's fucking mad shit. Mad shit. Anyway, he writes rather beautifully about it. He's one of the more based people. Genuinely, I would advise you to go and check him out. And he sort of does that kind of colonialist history, right? But from a vaguely progressive standpoint, I suppose. I don't think he ever goes like explicitly socialist, because he doesn't really talk about economics, except in the form of economics within an empire setting. He talks about money and the transfer of wealth and all the rest of it, but he doesn't necessarily talk about like alternative economic systems. That's not really what he's about. You are quite right. India was the trade capital of the world. I've heard it estimated that the stolen wealth was of 47 trillion the British Empire extorted from India. Literally true. India, before the British got there, was already phenomenally wealthy. Indian textiles were so successful in the early days of ocean voyage, again before the Britons got there, that they managed to cause a recession in what we would now know as Mexico, although technically it wasn't even Mexico at this point, that's how far ago it was, right? Their textiles were so big, they sold so much of it, that it caused a recession on the other side of the world, when it took you 3 months to fucking get there on a wooden ship. That's how fucking successful and rich they were. Before we got there. Britain didn't bring civilization to India, it brought fucking horrific slaughter and capitalist greed to India. And took from it a huge amount of things.
I don't want to do this anymore!
Thank you, Tess, who says, through Super Chat, never putting pants on again. Nice reference. Call back to the thing I did earlier. Nice reference point. Yes. Yeah, so go and read Dalrymple's stuff. It's fucking brilliant. Anyway, he did a sit-down conversation with Ash Sarkar at some...
I don't want to do
fucking kill me. At some event or another, and I wanted to check it out because it's fucking beautiful. I like listening to the man speak. He's very posh, but again, we like an upper-class class traitor. We're all absolutely all on board with that. We in a subcontinent already had civilization for thousands of years. True. Everyone go and follow Boy Meets Minnie. If you want a more Indian flavoured take on India, Boy Meets Minnie is right there to explain all of that, as well as play racing games and things online. They're cool. I also put Kevin Logan in a bowler hat. Okay, that is literally me in a bowler hat. That is literally true.
Of the sausage.
I still can't see the screen because I have pants on my head.
See, this is the duality of the Kev stream. You get a rant about colonialism and the extraction of wealth from the Indian subcontinent, and some truth, and then you get Kev in a bowler hat as a fucking thing, and someone talking about having pants on their head. Those are the poles, the duo pole of the Kev stream. Those are the two axes around which we turn. Absolutely beautiful stuff. That should be a fucking emote. Yeah, hang on. Ooh. Save image. Boom. Let's see if I can get this up on YouTube, on Twitch. Noises happened. What happened? Thank you, Arizal, or Dave in North London, who says, still can't see the screen because I have pants on my head. Again, lovely callback. It's beautiful. And thank you, Wolfpet. Missed the start, thought it was meant to be 7 PM. We'll catch the rest later. Yes, apologies to everybody who might have missed the start of this one. It was originally meant to be at 7, but for reasons, beyond my control, BowlerHatMan had to do another thing at 6:30. So, I think you've got to be reasonably accommodating. So they said 6, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, we'll do 6, So apologies that it started early. I did announce it on the Discord, which is why you should go and check out the Discord, because it's where I do occasionally post updates when and if necessary. But you might not be a member of the Discord, and so you may not have seen that, and that's fine. But, a word to the wise, the Discord is there. Why is you as the sun not an emote? I don't know. Usernameless entity. Why is a piece of string up my arse? Is a much more pertinent question. Anyway, from Kevin a bowler hat to William Dalrymple. This is In keeping with yesterday's not too heavy video, which, by the way, I don't know if they're in chat tonight, but to the wonderful person yesterday who said, well, I've got a video suggestion that's not too heavy, and it was literally companies linked with the Nazis. And we had an hour of pretty heavy content. This is, I think, in the same vein, okay? This is not too heavy. We're just going to talk about the colonialist exploitation of a nation of hundreds of millions of people for centuries. Yippee! Get ready for descriptions of firing on innocent protesters with no arms. Ah! Aye, Bunky Boy, you're in. You've started a Bunky Boy, or he ain't heavy, he's my brother. Which you've got a catchphrase. You don't even have a nickname, you have a catchphrase. That's what we're going with now, okay? Bunky Boy is in chat. Everyone give them some love. They're fucking awesome. Yeah. It's gonna be one of those, I think. Yeah. Well, I did, obviously, with Facts and Logic. Everyone go and follow Mix Vivian Wolf on the various platforms. She's fucking awesome, fighting the good fight in the face of fucking evil from the British government. As I did touch upon, albeit all too briefly, in the discussion I just had. Anyway, enough. It's time for some colonial history, bitches.
Welcome to Downstream IRL. As I'm sure you're all aware.
Oh look, it's Timu No Justice. See, that was needlessly offensive, wasn't it? I didn't need to say that. Fucking did.
Popular historians in this country can be a bit of a mixed bag. So on the one hand, you've got those who say the empire was great. What are you whining about? You didn't even deserve the fucking trains anyway. Yeah. And on the other, you've got many people who can tell fascinating stories about individuals, but don't really want to challenge dominant narratives of cultural superiority or indeed our sense of what's normal and advantageous today.
Yeah, they're still going on about it. Fucking Clive of India, which, by again, another character. You know, whenever a British person is called of, and then, like, insert random colonial place, you know they did some of the wackest shit you've ever heard, right? If his name's, like, David Lloyd Smith of Zanzibar, you know he killed every fucker there. He killed so many people, he enslaved, he butchered, he stole everything. And now he's got a statue in Downing Street or something. You know what I mean? There was one of those things. Clive of India is no different. The man was a fucking psychopath. He just did unspeakable fucking crimes. Unspeakable crimes. So bad that he ended up fucking topping himself. He ended up killing himself. Out of, like, disgust, I think? With his own actions. He still has a statue in, I think it's outside the Colonial office, I think. I forget where. Somewhere in London. Not Venninger of Hesselink, because of course of, in that sense, is and in Dutch. True, that was the only good thing he ever did, was blowing his own fucking brains out. Actually, did he shoot himself? I think he did. It doesn't really matter. He's dead. Can we get some lols in chat for the death of Clive of India? The latest ponage from fucking 250 years ago. Mixed Vivian Wolf, I will be posting the debate on my YouTube probably tomorrow, I think. Yeah, 707's in chat for the death of Clive. Absolute fucking monster.
William Dalrymple has, however, cut a very different path, combining travel writing, art history, archaeology, architecture, cultural...
I'll tell you what, if we get onto a hype train today, there's no fucking way I'm showing that. Not a chance. Are you a mentalist? 255, I'm not putting that on stream. You fuck. Anyway, what was? Oh shit! What was I saying? Can someone remember what I was saying? Because I've totally lost the fucking plot. Oh yeah, if we get onto a hype train, right? I'll finger the corpse of Clive of India. Okay? I will. I don't know where he's buried, but I will find that fucking prick and I will finger him. For India. Clive of my fist.
Commentary. His books are both richly researched and also compellingly written. His works on the history of India, the British Empire, and the Islamic world have challenged dominant narratives around civilization, conquest, and cultural exchange. And in addition to his work as a historian, he co-founded the Jaipur Literary Festival, and his podcast with Anita Anand, Empire, has hit 80 million downloads. Those are Ariana Grande numbers, mate. That's insane. We're here to talk primarily about his book, The Golden Road, How Ancient India Transformed the World, which is, I think, a kind of friendly retort to the Silk Roads theory, which says that the land trading route from China through Central Asia and into Europe, that's the central way for thinking about the kinds of exchanges between East and West. Instead, Dalrymple looks at sea trading routes from India westwards into the Red Sea, eastwards into the Mekong Delta, and traces the spread of people, ideas, religion, philosophy, numbers, silk, and even the humble rhubarb. I'm sorry, my husband's going to kill me for doing a Yorkshire accent, but what can I say? William Dalrymple, welcome to...
Was that a Yorkshire accent?
I'm sorry, my husband's going to kill me for even the humble rhubarb.
Oh, it was a bit. Okay, I'll allow it.
I'm sorry.
It was very slightly posh Cockney girl doing a Yorkshire accent, but I'll accept it.
My husband's going to kill me for doing a Yorkshire accent, but what can I say? William Dalrymple, welcome.
Oh, here he is. Here's my potential victim again, if you want to get me onto a hype train. Bits and subs and all of that jazzerino. Where's he buried, the cunt? He was born in Shropshire, okay, and died in Mayfair, City of London, lol, and is buried at St Mary of Antioch Church in Morton Say, Shropshire, England. So it's not that far then. Shropshire's not desperately far from me. It's certainly a lot closer than some of the fingerings I've had to give out in parts of Asia and South America and things. Yeah, honestly, trekking up the Andes to finger Pinochet was an experience. One should not need a Sherpa for a fingering. But here we are.
Welcome to Downstream. Great. I love that you're walking on with a can of lager.
Not just any old lager, hell's.
Let's just jump into it.
Sure.
I'm Alexander the Great.
Well, who we know from our previous correspondent wasn't gay. He just liked wanking off other men. He was just despunkifying. Perfectly fine, okay? Alexander the Great, not gay. He just touched a lot more men's cocks than you would expect for someone who wasn't gay. Look, that is a lot of cock. That really is. Like, you are not doing well there. The burial ground, the gift of the Viscount Clive and the Honourable Robert Henry Clive to the parish of St Lawrence Ludlow. Whoa! Lawrence Ludlow.
This one is all Clive's. Have fun in Shropshire. Kitty bonk.
Was consecrated by the Right Reverend Bishop. Blah blah blah. I thought you weren't allowed to be buried on holy ground if you killed yourself, because you'd sinned against God. And they definitely knew at the time that he'd killed himself. Like, this was definitely suicide. This wasn't, like, questioned. But apparently he's buried... If you're rich enough, you get to just top yourself and live. Not live. You definitely don't get to fucking live. Death is the one thing, the one equaliser across economic spectra. No, I meant to be on a consecrated religious ground. Interesting what religious rules count and what don't when you're rich enough. Is that not just a Catholic thing? Is it? I don't know. I was raised Catholic, so that's my sort of reference point for Christianity. Thank you to Wayward Historian with 1312 randomly numbered bitties. I don't know what 1312 means. It could mean anything. Because I'm a good boy, I don't know what that means. Much in the same way that you'll never hear me say, I support Palestinian action. Or I support Palestine action, because you'll never hear me say it. Because it's illegal, you understand. You may, however, potentially see me support a different group, totally different group, called Plasticine Action. Okay? I will say it now. I'll say it now, unapologetically. I support Plasticine Action. It's to support Morph from Heart on Art, okay? Plasticine Action, based as fuck. Fighting the good fight. But you'll never hear me say I support Palestine Action, because that's illegal. That's illegal and terrorism, and you'll go to jail forever. And if someone can find me this t-shirt, I need it. I need it in my life. Fact. I support Yvette Cooper. I do hope that group Yvette Cooper do continue to do things, totally legal things, so that we can carry on the joke.
Less of the skepticism, please. I'm Alexander the Great.
I never doubted it, Ash.
And I've done a load of conquering. I finally...
To be fair, I think she's more butch than Alexander the Great. Like, Alexander the Great was more feminine. And that's not a slight on either of them. I'm just pointing it out. And I bet he sucked more dick than she. Again, I'm not criticising either of them. I'm just saying it's true.
Show up in India. What am I making of what I find in ancient India, and what are they making of me?
Well, the second question first. There's not a single reference to Alexander the Great in any Indian source.
What? Why do I need so many Indian think of it then? What's going on?
So we think of it as this sort of extraordinary moment in Western history with this great conqueror. Indians shrug it off and no one records it. No one even knows. I mean, some Indian historians doubt that it happened. I think it did happen, but it's so unimportant.
Yeah, well, exactly. He wasn't there very long, and he didn't do anything. He wasn't rude. You can't confirm that. To be fair, I can't confirm that. Thank you, Bilderberg, for gifting a sub to Elliot Warman. Oh, I'm on fucking hype train. Dope. Yeah, I've got to go to Shropshire and finger some bones. Pucker up, Clive, my boy. You're getting done. Yes, anyway, thank you. Yes, we're on a hype train, bits and subs and all that shite, and I will feel sexy or something. Anyway, yeah, Alexander the Great wasn't in India for very long. He won some battles, killed some people, but like, it wasn't that big a deal. He matters far more to Europe than he does to India or whoever. Who gave me the sub? Who did? Bilderberg gave you the sub, Elliot Warman. And thank you, Cat Plinth, for resubscribing. 27 months. Have you sought help for your addiction? You're hurting people, and you're hurting yourself. This is an intervention for you personally. Cat Plinth. You need to change. And we can help you.
In the wider flow of things in India, so it's said, that it's simply not recorded. But what he comes to, and what develops in the centuries to come, is a civilization about which in the West, but astonishingly in this country, which had 300 years of relations with India, and has this enormous Indian population here. It's astonishing how little we know about ancient India in this country. To give one example, I suspect everyone in this audience knew about Archimedes in his bath shouting Eureka by the age of 6, 7 or something.
You're really overestimating the quality of my education, but sure.
But it's a name which the idea of this Greek in his toga or whatever it is, shouting Eureka, it's something kids learn about. Equally, by the age of 10, most people have come across Pythagoras and his theorem. Now, that's all very well, and Joe will be very pleased that we're studying all these wonderful Greek figures. But we should also know, and we don't, names like Aryabhatta and Brahmagupta, who the South Asians in the audience will know.
A little more difficult to say than like Plato. But yeah, I get the point you're making, yes.
Know this and have uncles that have sent them WhatsApps about it from their childhood. But all the white Brits have never heard of these people. You can go to universities, you can go to Oxford and Cambridge, and simply these names will not register. But they are crucially important. Aryabhatta, in about 350 AD, comes up with the exact circumference of the Earth, the distance of the Earth to the moon.
See, that's why, like, when people say, oh, they didn't know the Earth was round. They thought they were going to fall off the Earth. No, they didn't. No. Educated people had known about the Earth for being round for a long time. The ancient Egyptians worked it out even before the Indians, I believe. Because they had columns. They had, like, plinths of the same length in different parts of the country, and they realised that at different parts of the year and different times of the day, the shadows would be different lengths. So they were able to work out from that there was a curvature between the two, and they were up at different angles, technically. Very well noticed. Observant people. That's how you get the fucking knowledge to build a pyramid, motherfuckers. Right? So yeah, people had known for ages. Your average peasant wouldn't have known shit, because they didn't get any education, literally at all. They couldn't read or write. They had, but like educated people knew these things. The thing is, right, people in my chat will see this reference point, and they won't know necessarily whether this is about Thatcher or the Queen. It could be either, and it applies perfectly well to either. But which one, chat? You decide. Also, I like the fact that the Wojak is like the same person, but just of different fucking ethnicity. I like it. It's beautiful. Or it could be Victoria, I suppose. Yeah, a while back. And to be fair, with the Scottish independence thing on the Scottish ginger chap with the pipe, that's a very modern. That's a very modern reference point. So I'm going to say this is relatively new. And with a red star, we're definitely talking at least 20th century, but and the horrible, the big book of British teeth, which I am not doing much to conquer as a thing. Mine are. I describe my teeth as looking like if you pulled a horse corpse out of a canal after a couple of years, its teeth would be better than mine. And mine are probably above average.
The distance of the Earth to the Sun, the fact that we live in a heliocentric universe, that the Earth goes round the Sun.
Lucky guesses.
No, because he gets the figures exactly right. And that's 1,000 years before Galileo. Brahmagupta, who takes his ideas forward, Brahmagupta's sitting on a mountaintop in Rajasthan, a place called Mount Abu. And he's meditating on this idea of sunya, which is an idea in Indian, both Buddhist and Hindu civilization, about the void. And he comes up with definitions of zero. So 0 is, for example, the number you get when you subtract a number from itself. And he realizes that, that 0 is not just an absence or the space between positive and negative. He realizes it's a number with its own qualities, and therefore you can do, well, number one, place value, 10.
Motherfucker invented 0. Imagine that shit. Like, do we need more of this? We need more crazy cunts going up a mountain, inventing new numbers. That's what we need. We need more of that shit. Let's go. How do we fund nutters inventing numbers? It's the future.
Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. You can also do things like algorithms and algebra and all sorts of fancy mathematical tricks. And it's basically Brahmagupta who takes 0, adds it to the existing 9 Indian number symbols, and creates our numbers.
And what's the relationship between Indian numbers and what we call Arabic numbers?
They're the same. We call them Arabic numbers because we got them from the Arabs, but the Arabs get them from India, and they still call them Hindi numbers. They remember where they get them from. We've totally forgotten it.
Jesus Christ. So even the Arabic numbers, which I'm like, see, Arabs came up with our numbers. This is an argument I've made before, right? Like, we don't even use the Roman number system. The Arabs got a better one, so we use that instead. And it's not even fucking Arab. It's Indians. Indians invented that shit. But we can't even give it, like, because there's a hierarchy of racism, apparently the Arab is, like, seen as a noble savage. So he gets to have a number system named after the Indian. No. Because of Gandhi. Who is a problematic figure all of his own. Let's not get into it. Thank you everyone for the hype train. Much love to you. I'm off to Shropshire in the morning.
And there's this whole extraordinary history of how these Indian numbers, along with many other things, such as quite possibly the plan we all have of universities. When you go to Oxford and you see these courtyard after courtyard running down Oxford High Street, you see exactly the same plan at the Indian University of Nalanda in about 600 AD. Other ideas, like chess, when chess is an Indian game originally, comes through Persia to the West. When you say checkmate today, you're speaking Farsi, though you don't realize it. Shah Mat, the king is dead.
Oh yeah, and Rook comes from the Farsi word for a chariot.
And it's the same word as Shah Rukh Khan, for the Bollywood fans in the audience.
Our minds just exploded.
So,
no, I'm going to Shropshire to finger the corpse of Clive of India. Robert Clive, who is dead. Can we get some lols in chat again? Let's get some 707s in chat. For the death of a person that probably some of the Americans had never heard of before tonight. There we go.
It's through, one of the early viziers of Baghdad, in fact the family that create Baghdad for the Abbasid caliphs in the 8th century, are a family originally known by the Sanskrit name Pramukh, which just means boss in Sanskrit. That's Arabicized to Barmakid. And the Barmakids bring in the works of Aryabhatta.
I thought Malia and Malik were the Barmakids. The Obama's kids. I'm a very clever man. Honestly, for anyone who missed my Kodak-related puns from yesterday's Holocaust video, honestly, they were amazing. They gave you a real lens on my mind because they're like cameras. Yeah, anyway.
From Brahmagupta. It's translated into Arabic by a guy called Al-Khwarizmi. Al-Khwarizmi comes from what's nearly the Aral Sea, from modern Uzbekistan, comes down, translates it, and he produces a book which he calls, he brings in a bit of Euclid, he throws in some Western ancient Greek mathematics too. And he writes a wonderful book called, with the snappy title of The Book of Completion and Balancing According to Hindu Calculation. But that's too long, even in Arabic. And so everyone just knows it by a nickname, Al-Jabr. algebra. And his own name, Al-Khwarizmi, becomes the basis of our word algorithm.
When you're
So
linking this
it's
together, do you
from-
feel a little bit like
That's
a
pretty
detective?
dope.
It's very exciting because this is stuff which we should know and which scholars do know, but it simply hasn't made it out.
No, segue. It already happened. The debate already happened. We had to start an hour early, and it happened. It was very good. I believe I pwned with facts and logic because I'm so fucking smart. I think you have to say that on the internet. It's like a contract thing.
Into, in the same way that we know about Archimedes and his bath and all these things that are part of our Western curriculum. There's so much, and this is also the theme of Joe's book, that so much that we consider to be central to Western civilization, which comes, in my book, specifically from India, but in Joe's book, from the wider world. And both of us are very much working on the same. When we first met and compared ideas, we were very much finding the same sort of things and using the same sort of sources. It was very exciting.
I mean, let's talk about the sort of physical conditions which enable for this kind of spread of ideas. How central is climate and geography when you're thinking about why these ideas were able to spread in the way that they did?
So in the case of India, it's completely central. And India has a great gift, which you certainly don't have in, say, Scotland. In Scotland, winds blow in one direction in the morning and then a different direction in the afternoon and a third direction in the evening. In India, you have improbably very punctual and well-organized wind systems.
That is not something I've heard about Indians very often, but let's go.
And basically, because you have Tibet above India, which is this vast area, if you see it on the map, it's an incredibly large landmass. And that freezes over in winter, and you have winds, cold winds raking in, and then it thaws in summer, and warm winds blow out, but on a continental scale, on a massive scale. Now, this creates the monsoon winds. And that means that if you're an Indian sailor in the 1000 BC, or 500 BC, or 500 AD,
Sorry. The book, Ella, that I referenced was The Anarchy. It's called The Anarchy. Which doesn't sound... It's not about anarchism. It's about the rule of the British East India Company. Superb book. Definitely. If you want to start on a Dalrymple book, that would be the one I would go with.
all you've got to do is put up a sail. And once you've learned how to ride these terrifying monsoon winds, just like a surfer learns to surf that big wave in Hawaii and have that incredible surfing experience, as an Indian sailor, once you put up your sail, you get turbo-driven at speed across the ocean. And so it takes only 6 weeks to get from Kerala on the winds through Yemen to Rome and Egypt. And so we've been brought up, certainly my generation been brought up with this idea of the Silk Road, which you mentioned in your introduction. And I have a lot of fun arguing this with my friend Peter Fragapad. Joe, in fact, has kept us apart at one point for the only time that we nearly had a disagreement in Cheltenham. Thank you, Joe. And the Silk Road, which is now such a dominant idea, and it works at every level. It's a very romantic idea.
Oh shit! I fucking missed that. Ella Bella gave 5 gifted subs during the hype train, which I totally missed. God, I'm shit at this. But there you go. I'm really bad at it. You can give me money, and I will occasionally, very occasionally, remember to say something about it. Subject to change in terms and conditions. And blah, blah, blah.
Everyone loves the idea of, Bactrian camels swinging in saddlebags and coming down the Pamirs and through the sand dunes of Dunhuang. And it works with the Netflix series when Marco Polo, is with those Mongol princesses. It works on the level of geopolitics in that it's the basis for the Belt and Road, which the Chinese have built on top of this idea. In reality, that idea is not an ancient idea. There is not a single ancient mention of the Silk Road. You don't get it. Marco Polo doesn't talk about the Silk Road. And also Rome doesn't know about China, and China doesn't know about Rome. In fact,
So Marco Polo fucking travelled the Silk Road, and even he doesn't talk about it. Honestly, the more you learn about shit like this, the more you realise we've been totally fucking lied to. At first by omission, by them just not telling you anything about this shit. Like, I think it would be genuinely shocking to a lot of people in South Asia how little the West ever talks about them. Because you'd think, like, India's a country of 1 billion, nearly 2 billion people, whatever, right? Pakistan, hundreds of millions. Bangladesh, hundreds of millions. We don't talk about them in a contemporary sense. And we almost never talk about them in a historic sense. So there's that. But then even the bits you are told, the bits like the fucking... Oh, Alexander the Great was massive in India. No, he wasn't. India was poor before we got it. No, it wasn't. It was uncivilized. No, it wasn't. But we gave them trains. From a nation that cannot even build one train line now. Fucking mental.
In fact, this idea is dreamt up in 1877 by a German geographer called Baron von Richthofen, whose grandson was the Red Baron. Some of you may remember those stories of this first World War fighting aids. That was the grandson of this guy.
Oh,
And it only
shithouse, fucking shithouse. Right, okay. I'll start that bit again, because I was muted. The Baron von Richthofen, that he just mentioned there, the Red Baron, was the fighter ace during World War One, right? I think it was nephew, became a fighter ace in the newly created Luftwaffe before the Second World War, was the leader of the Condor Legion, which was guilty of war crimes all throughout Spain, including, of course, most famously, the bombing of the city of Guernica. The Condor Legion then were involved in the flattening of both Leningrad and Stalingrad. So basically, that family was really fucking bad in every conceivable way. You can usually tell in German because they've got the word von. So von Richthofen, that sort of thing. Von being a prefix to a surname which it denotes aristocracy. Who'd have thought it? Rich cunts are bad.
Enters the English language in 1936 with a guy called Sven Hedin, who was a Nazi-sympathizing Swedish explorer.
There were no Nazi Swedish people. Sweden didn't do nothing.
And it's only when I'm at college in the 1980s that you get a show in the Metropolitan Museum in New York, which kicks off the whole thing. And from there, it spreads.
And at no point, people are thinking, well, boats can carry more stuff than camels, so maybe they were more important.
Obviously, you can fit 10 times, 100 times more into a boat, a big junk or a big Arabic dhow, than you can in a few camel saddlebags. And so my book says that certainly for the ancient period, we're not talking about the Middle Ages, there's no question that Marco Polo, after the Mongols smash a hole through Europe and open up this motorway running from the...
Yeah, Quisling was Norway, but Quisling just means, you know, an acquiescent, you know, traitor type thing. But yes, Vidkun Quisling was a Norwegian traitor.
Mediterranean to the South China Sea. That at that point, there is a road going east to west which connects China and the West. But in the ancient period, the same sort of period that Joe is writing about, Rome and China don't know each other, but Rome and India are each other's #1 trading partners.
And is that
Yeah.
because
The spice trade specifically, using the winds along the Arabian Peninsula to get into Roman Egypt, hugely profitable for both sides.
of Egypt?
Once they get Egypt, once you think back to your literature classes, Antony Cleopatra, she puts the asp to her breast, commits suicide.
You would not catch me dying for a man like that.
No. I'm sure your lovely husband would not ever want you to apply any sort of asp to your breast. But he's here in the audience, isn't he?
William, my mum is here.
Your mum is here. We'll keep off asps then. Anyway, but after they commit suicide, Augustus seizes Egypt, and Egypt becomes part of the Roman Empire.
And becomes the breadbasket. Quite literally, like it's where all of their grain comes from. Because people forget it was part of what was called the Fertile Crescent. The desert, the massive desert known as the Sahara, is relatively new. Back in the days of ancient Rome, it wasn't that big at all. It certainly hadn't reached northern or central Egypt at that point. So it was very, very good fertile ground, especially around, obviously, the Nile, with its rich silt from flooding every year and so on and so forth. And that's why they have the grain dole in Rome. Because Rome is not a city that creates anything. Like all imperial capitals, it is the biggest sucker up of wealth and produce in the empire. And so they use the grain dole to essentially, do the bread and circuses. The bread part of that comes from Egypt. They get all of that grain and they dole it out to the people of Rome, and it keeps them quiet.
Giving India a front door to Rome, because it takes only 6 weeks sailing on the monsoon winds to go from the Red Sea coast of Egypt through Aden to, 3 big ports. One near modern Karachi at the mouth of the Indus, called Babarakam. Another one in Gujarat, called Gaza. But the really big one is Muziris in what's now Kerala. And these are connected so closely to the Roman economy, although again, this is something scholars know, but is not in popular consciousness at all, that Pliny, a conservative sort of spectator reading Roman naval commander, complains that because the metropolitan elite are importing all these fancy luxuries from India, by which he means silk, which he regards as sort of Victoria's Secret porno wear.
It's too diaphanous.
It's too diaphanous, exactly right. You can see everything through it, for your mum's sake. I'm sure she'd never let you go out of that. And then there's pepper, which he regards as a sort of woke spice. Well, the kind of thing the young are putting on their food today. Why can't they just put olive oil or garum?
These kids today, they spend too much on spice. Too much money on spices. That's why they can't afford a house.
Ivory. And so he says that there is this massive drain of the wealth of the Roman Empire into Indian pockets. And we have these figures now from a manuscript called the Muziris Papyrus, which actually gives figures that there's one. It's an invoice for a container. It happens to have survived in the dry Egyptian desert, and it gives 3 things. It gives prices of all the goods. It gives the goods themselves, which are ivory, pepper, cotton, silk, and odd things for making perfume with, nard and malabathrum. Then it gives the prices, which are enormous, and your Indian ancestors were ripping off our poor Roman ancestors with outrageous prices.
Donate the player, hate the game.
True.
And then finally, in a nice sort of Trumpian moment, the tariff that the 1/3 tariff that the Romans were putting on Indian imports. And this is now very important because economic historians have been playing with these figures. They're coming up with ideas that maybe as much as 1/4 of the Roman imperial budget came from the customs take on the Red Sea. And
Fucking
this
hell.
one container described in the Mosairis Papyrus, which talks about something like 250 tons of ivory in this container. So a lot
Wow.
of dead elephants and a lot of pepper, 250 amphora full of black pepper. That sort of
Yeah, an amphora with these massive, massive pots, clay pots, right? That would be like 6-7 feet high, and you couldn't fit, a man's arms couldn't fit around the widest part of it. It was huge. So when you start talking about hundreds of these things, that's a big ass ship, man.
If that container actually made it to Alexandria and was sold,
There's literally a hill in ancient Rome that exists, and it looks this big fucking massive hill, and it's made entirely, the inside of it is entirely smashed amphora, right? So the amphora that would bring in olive oil from Spain, because the olive oil would essentially destroy the inside of these things after a while, they'd have to destroy them. Like, you know, you couldn't, there wasn't real cleaning products, there wasn't bleach or anything. Not that that would be practical anyway, but you get the point. And so they had to smash loads and loads of these, and so they essentially ended up with a massive, huge mound of these amphora, which over the course of time, like, vegetation grew on and stuff, and now it's just a big fucking hill in the middle of Rome. That's just, that's how many of these things they used over the course of centuries. Incredible shit.
prices declared on this declaration.
Yeah, basically landfill, yeah, ancient landfill. But on top of the surface. So it's land, it's not landfill, it's land increase or something? I don't know. Land pile?
The importer would have been the Elon Musk or the Larry Ellison of Roman Alexandria.
And so what's the effect of all of this Roman gold flowing to India?
Well,
What's
certainly not the Jeff Bezos, because that cunt can't deliver a fucking bowler hat in time. Useless prick.
that doing in terms of the creation of, I mean, it's not right to talk about an Indian ruling class. Of course, you're talking about multiple kingdoms and principalities and, you know, all of that kind of thing. But what's the effect of Roman money on Indian culture?
So there's 2 points. First of all, about the existence of India as a notion. India is an ancient idea, and you have people, the other name for India in the constitution is Bharat. Bharat is there in the Mahabharata, which is coming into final shape about 300 AD. So there's a very clear idea of a geographical and cultural space called India, Bharat, which is defined by the Indus on the west, the Ganges on the east, the ocean to the south, and the Himalayas to the north. But within that, you have 70 or 80 different kingdoms. So it's legitimate to talk about India, but it's not, we shouldn't conceive of it as one nation state. It's a cultural world which was hugely divided, but which shares often a number of ideas from top to bottom. So India is a real space. What was the second question?
What was the effect of Roman money on Indian culture?
Becomes very rich. And India has already this very...
So at the same time that the people of Britain were, let's be honest, being butt-fucked by the Romans, reliant on the Romans. Literally, there's this famous Roman text where they say that the Britons have been bought off with Roman baths. He literally describes the bath. He says in Aqua Sulis, which is Bath, the city of Bath in modern England, or Bath if you're fucking posh or southern. He describes the baths there as you know, they're quite opulent and all the rest of it. And he says that the British, or the Britons, have taken their subjugation as part... have ascribed civilization to their subjugation. So in other words, even the Romans, the Roman diplomats that were there, knew that they were essentially, you know, giving little fripperies to the people of Britain and ruling over them. Right? They were dominant. They were a power ruling Britain. And at that same time, the Indians were rinsing them for pepper. But, you know, it was the British what brought civilization to India. All I'll say is, not to get too has about this, like, you know, what civilization have you made? But when the Romans left Britain, a coin-based economic system collapsed instantly. London was depopulated in years. Like, it didn't exist. When people talk about the continuity between the Roman London and the modern London, there's a bit in between there where no one lived there. Because the Romans were the cult of the civic, right? The cult of the city, the urban dweller. And as soon as they went away, the Britons just sort of sank into old, very, very dark agey bullshit. The number of iron nails in coffins dries up overnight. We forget how to make metal. Which is interesting, because one of the only reasons the Romans came here in the first place was for tin in Cornwall. Tin, very rare metal, especially in the ancient world. You need it to make copper. And so the Romans got here, found out, oh, there's some tin there, but it's not really like that much worth it, whatever. And then, you know, eventually sort of left because they were collapsing. And the Britons forgot how to make fucking metal. That's why British ancient folklore is so replete with like brass, not fucking iron. What am I talking about? Brass. Yes. Why British folklore is so replete with stories of giants, because there were all these fucking Roman buildings, massive Roman buildings that no one knew how to build. So they just assumed giants must have built them. There must have been a race of giants that lived here. And folklore is born. The sewers stopped working. The aqueducts crumbled into nothingness. Whereas India was fucking loving it. India was fine. India was civilized, stable, strong, economically viable and active. And then 1600 years later, 1500 years later, the Britons turn up and bring them civilization. It's really interesting when you get a Eurocentric view of things, isn't it? What did the Romans ever do for us anyway? True. That is such a good scene. Actually, it's a really good movie. It's so annoying that fucking dickheads in Python ended up being wankers. Why? Isn't the idea of a Dark Ages kind of outdated? A little bit, but I think it's overdone. I think some people want to sort of rejuvenate the Dark Ages as something better than it was. It was still pretty dark, actually. It's just like, let us not pretend that we are so great post-Enlightenment. I think that's the real point here. Anyway, fun Persian fact. I'll be the judge of that, Marcel. There is a hill in Paris that was also a landfill at some point. Really not that high, though. It was mockingly known as Montparnasse, the home of the muse in Greek mythology by students, and the name stayed. Is that where Montparnasse comes from? It's landfill. Montparnasse is landfill. Honestly, the Euros, basically Angloids, frankly, there's no civilization to them at all. Anything north of the Alps, fetid scum. Fucking useless. Fuck it. Yeah, I imagine it was a while ago. Yeah, it's quite a significant hill. Well, actually, like you say, it's not that big, but it's, you know, for an urban setting, it's rather a significant hill.
Very sophisticated guild system. There's a guild called the 300, which is a bit like the Iron Bank in Game of Thrones. They're completely kick-ass. and they are guilds which have assassins. We have inscriptions of a corps of assassins. So if you if you kill, a brigand kills a member of this guild as he's wandering.
Well, hang on, Bilderberg. You can't say, oh, the Vikings burned a lot of literature, which doesn't help. Where were they from? I'm sorry, were these the cultured peoples of India? Or Egypt? Were these the brilliant people of Great Zimbabwe? No, they were not. They were white-oids. They were white-oids from north of the Alps. Get wrecked. Okay? You can't be trusted with nice things, Europeans. Okay? You don't deserve them, you can't look after them. Which is why the people of, I think, the Italian peninsula, the Balkans, Turkey, need to take all of our nice things. Okay? We can't look after them. We've shown we can't look after them. They need to take back their own things that we stole, firstly, and then all of our shit. And teach us a lesson.
Through the Himalayas, they send these guys after them.
Sick.
No, quite good. Then they also have their own soldiers and their own war fleets. So they're a bit like the East India Company. I hate to break it to. It's the same idea, and they have their own foundation. Now what happens is that when Rome falls, which it does in mid-5th century, and those two big ports, Berenike and Myos Hormuz, on the Red Sea coast of Egypt.
No, Metatron lives in America. It's different. He's also scum. Again, north of the Alps. Actually, he's all of America north of the Alps. I don't fucking know. Don't even get me started on the Americas. Ugh.
Which have been receiving this huge waves of Indian imports. When they're abandoned, there's a big problem in India, because suddenly this gold, which has been pouring, bucketing, draining in Pliny's usage into Indian pockets, that ends. And it's the guild, the 300, which pivots.
And so instead goes, we're going to look to Southeast Asia instead.
Exactly that. And that's the moment, around 500, exactly the moment as Rome is falling, those ports are being abandoned, Roman gold is no longer arriving. That's the period that you get in the Jataka stories of the Buddhists, in the Ramayana, in the Mahabharata, references to Savarna Bhumi, the lands of gold. And what's happening is they're not getting gold turning up from the west anymore, so they have to look east. And at this period, you begin to see in the archaeological record these estuary ports in Southeast Asia, where at the edge of the Mekong, at the edge of all the different rivers, where they're selling the forest products from the interior. People are bringing in boats and things down to the estuary, and there you get Indian merchants arriving, initially seasonally, then setting up houses and staying. And the first temples. I went this autumn to the Bujang Peninsula in Malaysia. And there you can see the first temples built by Indians in about 500 AD, very simple square base structures with a veranda, dedicated with lingams showing the worship of Shiva, but also Buddhist temples. And from about 500 AD, you begin to get this massive infusion of Indian ideas into Southeast Asia. And this, over a period of 1,000 years, culminates in the largest Hindu temple in the world, even now, is not in India. It's at Angkor Wat in Cambodia.
I mean, how extraordinary is that? That and it's also one of the largest religious monuments in the entire world, I think, out of any.
The largest religious monument in the medieval world, correct.
The fact that it's so far away from the Ganges and from the sort of, cultural and spiritual center of India. How does that happen?
Well, it's
Shit.
far
I was saying the Angkor Wat's awesome. I'd love to go there one day.
away from the Indian Ganges, but it's on the banks of another Ganges, because when Indian ideas take
There's
over...
two Ganges, because I'm about to call up my GCSE geography teacher and ask him.
So you'll know it. So what do Indians call the Ganges? Ma Ganga. How do the Khmer pronounce Ma Ganga? Mekong. The Mekong is the Ganges. And so you get... so you get
You're taking the piss.
So just like
mate.
you get, so just like the Brits take names like Perth to Australia and York to New York, so Indians take Ayodhya, the capital of Lord Ram, and they build a new one outside Bangkok. They build a new Kurukshetra, which is the great battle of the Mahabharata, in Laos. And all the main Shaivite shrines of India have counterparts in Cambodia, those big pyramid temples that you see all over Cambodia. So you get, what's fascinating though is that this is not...
seamstress, I'm jealous. Oh, I need to go places, man. Oh, it's too hot. Oh God, I just reminded myself of the, oh God. One of my favourite bits from The Simpsons. When I said it's too hot. There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't divulge information about that customer's secret illegal account. Oh, crap. I shouldn't have said it was a customer. Oh, crap. I shouldn't have said it was a secret. Oh, crap. I certainly shouldn't have said it was illegal. Ah, it's too hot today.
Oh God, I caught myself and I sounded exactly like it. Oh no. It is too hot today.
To conquest of the sword. This is not. Earlier Indian nationalist historians of the 30s tried to turn this into a sort of, we've got our colonies too. And they were wrong in that these were not conquests.
But was there some element of violence?
No,
At all?
not that we have any really clear evidence of at all. No, it's much more interesting. It is genuinely an empire of the spirit, not an empire of the sword.
And was there conversion? Because, you know, Islam, we make it very easy for people to convert. I could convert all of you right now, like that, very, very easy. Hinduism, it's sort of like, well, it's your fate to be born a Hindu, and if not, better luck next time.
So what you get is that there is specific benefits for specific people at this period converting to Hinduism as opposed to Buddhism. So while you've got Indian ideas circulating at large in Southeast Asia from 500 AD on, the merchant class like Buddhism because...
Oh yeah, Boy Meets Mini, Dalrymple's fucking based. Like a genuinely based guy. He fucking hates the Hindutva people. Because they are as much a disgusting lie about India as anything that everyone else has spoke about them, you know? Yeah, they're a betrayal of what India should be. And historically could have been. And futuristically might still be.
Just like today, if you're a business, you can greenwash with a bit of sustainability talk. Your business.
I did see that 255. It's a very good point. Point well taken. But I don't have any other sources, so I don't know what to say. Like, it's not like there are a plethora of things written about Britain. At least in part because the Britons never became big enough to actually, like, do anything in Rome. Like, virtually every other place that was conquered by Rome assimilated, and within inside the system, enough of their people became powerful enough that their stories got told and remembered. Whereas no one in Britain ever became a leader in Rome. Or no one from Britain ever became a leader in Rome. There were no important Britons ever in the Roman Empire. We were always a rebellious drain on the empire. We were a mistake. Arguably Caesar's greatest mistake. Arguably.
Business, and however much, you know, carbon footprint you're generating with your data or whatever it is, you can buy. The same is true in Buddhist thought, in that the merchant who's done hideous things to gather his fortune just donates half of it to the Buddhist temple, and bing, or karma, it's karma wash. So the merchants, counterintuitively, we have this idea in the West of Buddhism being this very otherworldly religion. It isn't. It's actually a religion strongly linked to capitalism and to trade. And in the first inscriptions that we have, Buddhist inscriptions we have in India, it's the merchant classes who are not only subscribing to it, but carrying it around the trade routes. So it passes as quickly as it does because there's this nexus between the merchants and the Buddhist monasteries. So, for example, in Andhra Pradesh, there's a very nice inscription of a man who calls himself a Mahanavika. Now, Mahanavika in Sanskrit means a great...
No, I really don't think that seamstress dragon. At least in part because they're not even the same people anymore. There are very few Brythonic peoples still around. There's a bit of it in Wales and Cornwall and that, but like realistically, all of the people in Britain now are descendants of like fucking French and German and Danish and fucking Norwegians, you know. Sorry, I'm taking my socks off. It's too hot for socks. Boudica is a tragic person, indeed, and she wasn't a Roman, really. So.
Great sailor, and he says he gives a little bit of his life story, and he says, "The monks lent me enough money to buy a boat, and here I'm recording that I repaid their debt with interest, which as agreed. So the monks had an interest rate." And they had slaves too, we know from other inscriptions. So this idea of this otherworldly religion, we need, all religions are in the world and take on the world. And Buddhism is no exception to that. So anyway, the Buddhists are very much part of the trading world, and Buddhism travels on the trade networks. It's the kings and the ruling classes like Hinduism, because Hinduism, although we have post-Gandhi this idea of Hinduism associated with ahimsa and non-violence, in reality, in the classical and early medieval period, Hindu kingship is all about being a successful warrior. You want to be like Lord Ram. You want to be like Arjun in the Mahabharata. You want to be like Lord Krishna with his chariot. And kings do not like Buddhism because it requires them to be non-violent, and there's no point being an early medieval king if you're not a warrior. So when Hinduism goes to Southeast Asia, it's very much part of the courts. And so the Brahmins come over from India with their literacy. They bring particularly not only Sanskrit, which becomes the lingua franca all the way from Kandahar in Afghanistan to Bali in Southeast Asia, like French in Tolstoy's Russia or Latin in medieval Europe. And they also bring a particular Indian script, which is called Pallava Grantha or Southern Brahmi.
This is the curly one.
The curly one.
Hang on. You play an anime game that has both Boudica and Nero as playable anime girls. Okay, I'm seeing a problem with Nero there. As a girl. Okay. I suppose if Scarlett Johansson can play an Asian person, why can't a dude play a lady? The fuck am I talking about?
So North Indian scripts, like you write in Hindi, you have the washing line with the letters coming down. But you can't draw that straight line in the South because you're writing on palms.
Why can't you do straight line on palms?
So if you do the straight line on the palm leaf, it cuts the palm. So you have to do the curvilinear round letters, which is what Tamil and Malayalam.
And is this why you have curly scripts in Southeast Asia?
So it's the same script. So the Pallava Grantha, which is the basis of Tamil and Malayalam, is also the basis of Pew, Mon, Khmer, Thai, all the pre-Islamic scripts of Southeast Asia. And if you are Tamil, you can have a pretty good guess at Thai words when you go on holiday and arrive at where? Savannah-Bhumi Airport for your Christmas holidays, the land of gold.
Oh my God. I mean, we talked about this last time we met, and I don't know if people in the audience are familiar with Goodness Gracious Me.
Yay!
There was a particular Goodness Gracious Me sketch where you've got Sanjeev Bhaskar, who is, you know, somebody's dad, and his son is trying to be like, look, Dad, look at the Mona Lisa, look at Shakespeare, and he is like, Shakespeare, Indian. I mean, when you're going through...
Oh, we have... That's one of my favourite fucking bits. I love that character. She's basically just explained it, but... goodness... Oh, hang on. Ooh. Gracious me. Indian. Superman is Indian. Here we go. Fucking love this sketch.
Come on, beta, let's clear these comic books away.
Oh, don't move that. That's my Superman collection. I'm trying to put it in order.
But you've got so many. Do you need this many comics?
Superman's my favourite superhero.
Ah, well, I can understand that. He's so brave, so strong, so Indian. Superman Indian.
No!
Come on, you've seen the film. He runs faster than a speeding train. There's only one country where you can run faster than the train.
But Dad!
What about Clark Kent? Clark Kent. National health glasses. Bad haircut. Go to Calcutta, you see millions of civil servants dressed exactly the same.
No, Dad! Superman comes from Krypton.
Kerala! Think about it, yaar. He's got 2 jobs. Indian. Never takes a day off work. Indian. And how does he get around? Cheap flights.
I don't believe you.
Not just Superman. Batman, Spider-Man, Incredible Hulk, all top superheroes come from India.
Rubbish.
Not rubbish. You look at the ancient Hindu texts, they're full of superheroes. There's Holy Man, Hanuman, Catman,
Kathmandu.
Okay, forget that one. But also Mongoose Man, Bribery Man, Latrine Boy.
Oh, have we got the Jesus is Indian? Where is it? Christianity is Indian. Here we go. Which didn't get anyone's knickers in a twist back in the day. That didn't happen at all.
Listen, Dad, I've got something to tell you, and you're not going to like it.
What is it?
Well, Dad, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've decided to become a Christian.
Good.
Good? I thought you'd be upset.
Beta, why would I be upset at Christianity when it's Indian?
No, it's not, Dad. Listen, I've accepted Jesus as my saviour.
Well, of course you have, Beta, because he was a nice Indian boy.
Not Jesus.
Beta, he is as Indian as they come. He worked for his father, Indian. Parents had children without having sex, Indian. Fed 5,000 people with 2 loaves and 5 fishes, Indian picnic.
That's not true.
Beta, not just him. All people from the Bible, Indian.
Rubbish.
Not rubbish. But think about it, yaar. Moses, the people came unto him with their suffering. He went up the mountain and came back with 2 tablets because he was a pharmacist. Noah came from a land where it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. He was Bengali.
So good.
Jericho, walk around it 7 times, blow a trumpet, the whole thing falls down. Indian builders.
No!
And that other fellow, Samson, big strong man, long hair, cut his hair lies weak as a child because he was sick.
The Bible's not Indian, Dad. Read the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Mahmud, Malik, Lakshmi, and Jaggi. Beta, apostles, Indian.
What about Judas? He betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver.
Well, business is business.
No, Dad.
I'm telling you, Beta, all people from the Bible, Indian. All except one.
Which one?
God, not Indian.
Why not?
In 6 days, he created the heaven and the earth and everything upon it. And on the 7th day, he rested. What kind of Indian doesn't work Sundays?
That's it. I'm off to church.
Now, Beta, sing with me. And was Jerusalem builded here on Jalandhar's brown and...
What kind of Indian doesn't work on Sunday? The Christians were very normal about that sketch. I remember that.
Through a book like this, and you're like, algorithms, Indian, algebra, also Indian, Southeast Asia, Indian, all scripts, seemingly, rhubarb, pepper, silks, ancient Rome, Indian, 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 Indian. Is there ever a moment where you go, ooh, am I doing the bit?
So, there's also, this is something that, is very big with Mr. Modi, and I was very keen not to sort of, play that whole Hindu nationalist game. But it is true that a lot of it can. And even one of the jokes that Sanju Bhaskar makes in one of those sketches is Leonardo da Vinci, Indian. Now, in reality, this will take a couple of minutes. Give me time for this one.
You're pissing me off, fam.
So we got as far as Brahmagupta and Aryabhata's ideas getting to Mesopotamia, to the Barmakids. It spreads throughout the whole of the Islamic world. And Al-Khwarizmi's book of maths, the Al-Jabr, becomes the basic textbook right into Islamic Spain. So while everyone in the Islamic world is using Indian numbers, in Italy still, and Northern Europe, they're still using the old Latin numbers. And try even in the audience tonight, giving your number to your next door neighbor in Latin numbers. It takes you half an hour.
Yeah. VIIIXIIIVII. Oh, for fuck's sake. Fuck off.
XVMC, XVCC, XVM.
Is that why he never texted me back?
I know. And so just very quickly, as late as the 12th century, everyone in the Islamic world, even in Spain, is using these numbers, but no one in Western Europe is. And then Pisa.
Because, as I've mentioned before, the Europeans are uncultured, uncivilized swine. Okay? I've said it before, I'll say it again. The Angloids, including the swarthy Swedes, don't even get me started. They're all fucks. What am I talking about?
Founds a colony in Algeria, a little small trading colony, and a single guy goes over and he brings his kids, and the boy learns the Arabic numbers.
If this motherfucker turns out to be Da Vinci, if this is the Da Vinci fucking origin story, this is the Da Vinci lore he's about to drop on us. Actually, without the Indians, Da Vinci wouldn't have been shit.
Which are the Hindi numbers, in Algeria. And then he goes back to Italy, and he finds his friends still trying to do long division with MCM XV divided by CCM CC XX112. And he realizes this isn't the best way to do it. So he writes a book called the Liber Abaci, the Book of Numbers, and that guy is Fibonacci. So Fibonacci, it's not finished yet, it gets better. We're getting back to Sanjay.
Fibonacci, Indian.
So we're heading towards Leonardo. So, it's a good moment for Scotland, actually. I've got to bring Scotland in here, too. So,
Scotland, Indian. You didn't know that? That was a turn up for the books. Turns out Scotland was invented in India. I know that Pakistan was invented in London. That literally happened. It didn't exist. It wasn't a thing. There was no such fucking place. Even the name literally is it's the letters. So it's like P for Punjab or something, or one of them. And then there's Balochistan is the Stan. I know that. And then the other letters of the PAKI are for different parts of Pakistan, and so they just made it up in this little fucking suburban house in central London. Well, not central London, in London. They just invented the state of Pakistan, and then hundreds of millions of people had to go. Okay, so like I've got to move now because some dickheads in London said a thing. What fucking century is this? Yeah. But anyway, Scotland, Indian.
Fibonacci is he is the boy wonder. Everyone's heard about this extraordinary book. And the single most brilliant king in medieval Europe called Frederick II, Stupor Mundi, the wonder of the world.
True, boy
comes
meets money,
up from
true.
Palermo to Pisa to meet him. It's like, imagine Trump going to Pittsburgh to meet the guy that's won Countdown or something. And he realizes, they have a kind of open-air competition, and Fibonacci wipes the floor. So he takes him back to Puglia and introduces him to his head of his astronomy department, who is a Scotsman called Michael Scott from Melrose. And Michael Scott from Melrose reads the Liber Abaci, realizes it's a work of genius, but being a pragmatic Scot,
There we go. These are the ones. Punjab, Afghania, Kashmir, Sindh, and Balochistan. So there you go. Those are the places in Pakistan.
says, look, pal, it's just a wee bit theoretical for me. And he says, you've got to be a bit more, practical. So we've got to have interest rates, money conversion, double accounting, which is an Arab-Indian invention, and interest rates. And so Fibonacci rewrites the Liber Abaci and produces a second edition dedicated to Michael Scott from Melrose, which has all these things. And that becomes the basis for the Italian banking revolution, the Medici. But it also becomes the basis for Renaissance art. And Piero della Francesca, the great Renaissance painter, reads this extraordinary book. And we think of Piero as being this great Renaissance artist. In his own time, he was thought of as a mathematician. And Piero writes 3 treatises.
Not to be confused with Alessandro Del Piero, the 20th and 21st century footballer. Very different person, but both from Italy. So. Afghania includes Khyber, which is home to Pashtun people. There you go. The only thing I know about Khyber is the pass. You can get through the mountains. It seems like quite a desolate place. But it's probably fine in some places. I don't fucking know. I don't know. I've got to go to Shropshire to finger a dead man tomorrow. Cut me some slack.
One of which is all about perspective and the basis for the whole Renaissance revolution of perspective. But he also writes 2 others. And when he dies, these are taken by his friend Fra Luca Pacioli up to Milan, where he shares it with his flatmate, who's painting a picture of the Last Supper. Leonardo da Vinci, Indian.
Jesus Christ, it's the 6 degrees of separation from Indianness. Everything great that ever happened, Indian. Look, it's this bloke taught this bloke that taught this bloke that taught, I don't know, think of a really crazy one. Benjamin Netanyahu, fuck, I don't know. Actually, I don't think the people of India... Actually, some of the fucking the Hindutva cunts would probably want to take credit for that, but I'm sure many would not.
I'm interested in how very different political cultures would have understood one another. So Buddhism spreads eastwards from India to China. How would Chinese royal courts have thought about Indian culture if they did at all?
So again, in the Silk Road myth, there's this idea that China is the terminus of the Silk Road. It's where all ideas begin. Gunpowder, printing, books all go from there westwards. But what we forget is that one of the most important, arguably the most important religion in China is an Indian religion, Buddhism.
China, Indian.
And it's carried this great university which I mentioned, Nalanda, which is the main center of the Buddhist world. This is this incredible monk called he used to be pronounced Huan-Sang in the old thing, but Xuanzang is how he's pronounced today. And he comes over from China, copies out 500 manuscripts in Nalanda, which he then takes back with him on a whole caravan back to China. And the Tang Emperor Taizong sets up this whole translation bureau.
Also, the Tang Emperor always sounded to me a little bit dirty. A little bit like it was, you know.
And allows Xuanzang to copy out all his manuscripts. And at the same time, Taizong has taken into his bedroom a 15-year-old concubine called Wu Zetian. Now, Wu, it turns out, is a bit of a piece of work.
Right, but he was being non-stop, to be fair.
And she gets rid of the empress.
Oh, shit.
And when Taizong dies, she manages to pivot from his bed into the bed of his son, Gaizong. And
again, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Wu-Tang! Sorry. We can't have a reference to the Wu-Tang clan in chat, I know, you know. It ain't nothing to fuck with, okay?
She then, first of all, becomes chief concubine, then empress. Then when he has a stroke, she becomes the regent. And then when he dies, she becomes the only woman emperor in 3,000 years of Chinese dynastic history.
Goddamn.
And she does this, just like the Tories brought about Brexit with all those dodgy think tanks in Smith Square and Tufton Street. Wu Zetian has her own think tank called the Scholars of the Northern Gate, the Tufton Street of early medieval China.
See, Tufton Street, Indian.
And they basically make Buddhism and Indian religion the state religion of China for her reign. And she relies on the Buddhists because in Confucian thought, women are inferior and cannot rule. But the Buddhists don't have this rule. And the monks come up with a whole lot of dodgy...
Oh, Buddhism's woke. Buddhism's woke. Women emperors. What's next? A guy.
prophecies saying that she is the reincarnation of Maitreya, and she's not only the just emperor, but she's also the Buddha incarnate. So she has complete control of China for 50 years. And she imposes Buddhism on China and on the Chinese court. The Taoists...
Yeah, I know Wu Zetian from the fucking games as well.
are reduced in status.
She's in the Civilization series.
That's only one generation. And
Wokeness. Indian.
The Confucians and the Taoists come back next. But for that period, an Indian religion rules supreme in China and remains.
Is that true, Alex? Does Buddha means the woken one, so Buddhism means wokeism. Is that true? Oh, don't tell the whites. Let's not let white people learn that, because they will misuse that little factoid.
It's very important throughout the rest of Chinese history. So you can argue that India, in a sense, is the most influential in the...
Are you saying that India was Indian? Because what a turn up for the books that would be if India wasn't Indian. Because then what are all those other things that are Indian? Whoa! What a mindfuck that would be.
This period of the 7th century, the most influential force in the whole of Asia, and it's much more the centre of things at that period.
No, I know there were gay Chinese emperors. Of course there fucking were. Yeah. I know. Thank you, 255. I appreciate your gay Chinese emperor knowledge.
Than China.
So how is it that, Sanskrit, goes from being the sort of like dominant script and, dominant language for political culture to it being replaced by Persian?
So in the 11th and 12th centuries, you have a whole series of migrations, rather like Joe talking about the Bronze Age collapse. In this case, you have the Turks coming in, the same cousin tribes, one lot.
God damn it, Hassan!
Go smash through the Byzantines, Battle of Manzikert, take over Anatolia and become the Turks of Turkey. But their cousins smash through down into India, and by the early 13th century, early 14th century, there are Islamic Turkish sultanates as far south as Madurai in Tamil Nadu. So the first thing is the arrival of Islam, which brings with it is Persianate culture and makes Persian the dominant language. But the next thing that happens, which we often forget, and in modern India, there is this massive dislike of the Islamic eruption, and there's a whole school of thought that says that kind of the Muslims destroyed everything, is the idea. But what is not remembered is the next thing that happens is that the Mongols appear. And that's an important part of the story too, because...
Hey, Bunko. Love it. That one's not real, it clearly says AI. Beautiful.
The Mongols not only smash up all those empires in Afghanistan and Merv, Samarkand, Tashkent, all those sort of places, they cause waves of Persian-speaking refugees down into India, bringing Persian with them. And so that's the point at which Persian becomes the language of court culture in India. But it also means there's a hostile border at the north of the Punjab, where you have the Mongol Empire to the north, and that now stretches to the Mediterranean. So it goes east-west, but it doesn't go south of the Himalayas. And so India is locked off at this period, and no longer has this period. No longer are there the overland routes to China. They're closed at this. So it's a double thing. India loses the geography, but it becomes very much a junior part of the Persianate world. And if you like, you can look at it from a variety of ways. The BJP looks on this as a loss and destruction and thinks this is the end of Indic civilization. But you can have another view that the richness of India is that it is like a cake with 3 layers. You have at the bottom the Sanskrit layer, in the middle you have the Persianate layer, and with that the Taj Mahal, Mughal miniatures, that whole world. And then on the top layer you have English language, the Indian love of Shakespeare. Today the book long list came out, half the authors were Indian. Because they're writing some of the greatest works in English and have been
See, Shakespeare, Indian.
The time of Tagore. So English becomes an Indian language as well. And it's that. So you can look at it 2 ways. You can look at it as 1,000 years of slavery, as Modi looks at it, or you can look at it, as I tend to do, as making India the richest and most sophisticated and complicated and culturally rich and mixed and diverse and pluralistic culture on Earth, with these different complicated...
Honestly, Narendra Modi needs to get... Can we get 707s in chat? Hopefully. Let's do an expectant, hopeful 707 in chat for Narendra Modi, the fascioid prick currently in control of India.
Layers, all giving different things.
Do you see any kind of emergence of, a third hybrid culture from those Persian influences and, the older, quote-unquote, Indian ones that it's layering on?
Of course. Indo-Islamic culture is hugely plural and mixed and cosmopolitan. So Urdu and Hindi are very much the same, Hindustani, the old word for the vernacular of northern India. It has the 2 worlds. It has Sanskritic-derived words, but it also has the Persianate and Arabic words. And the whole of North Indian culture is about that hybridity, which is, since partition, that has been, the Pakistanis emphasize the Persianate and the Arabic, and the Indians emphasize the Sanskrit and the...
Thanks, Britain. You really did a fantastic job at, balkanizing that fucking part of the world, you stupid bastards.
And the vernacular. But it's a hugely mixed culture for most of the Middle Ages and the early modern period. And that's its richness, to my view.
How much does your work piss off BJP diehards?
Well, different books piss them off different amounts. The ones that have the Moguls pissed them off a fair bit, but they quite like this book. And there's a kind of division in the Indian right that sees this book either as a very sort of clever British attempt to muddle everybody, and there's a conspiracy somewhere around it.
The old Fox of Europe again.
Fox of Europe again. But no, it's done very well in India, this book. It's been #1 for 6 months. And
I mean, are there some people who think that you've undersold Indian achievements? Because I know that there is a vein of Hindu nationalists who think that there was an ancient India atomic bomb.
so I think the reason this book has done well, I mean, there was some laughter in the audience at that point, that there's this whole world of WhatsApp uncles that
The atomic bomb. Indian.
that put out ideas that India invented the internet, that the rishis had, databases and nuclear weapons in the Mahabharata. And I think that's why no serious Indian scholar has ever actually written this book, because they've all got mad uncles and think this is, a slightly embarrassing line of inquiry. And why I think this book has been a success in India is that it, in a sense, it very soberly gives, without any nuclear weapons or internet theories, what really can be shown to be the contribution of India to the world. And because this is very contested, a quarter of the book is footnotes. It's all very rigorously sourced. Because I knew that this is controversial territory and that you had to go into battle fully armed, so to speak.
I mean, thinking a bit more about your work on the Mughals, what kind of political pressure are Indian historians coming under?
I'd never heard the theory that India had an ancient fucking nuclear bomb. No. That's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Oh, for fuck's sake. Okay. So, it's a real thing. The theory, anyway, not the actual thing. So it's Mohenjo-Daro. It's an archaeological site on the largest Indus Valley cities. On one of the largest. Pseudo-historians and proponents of ancient advanced civilizations or extraterrestrial visitations claim there is evidence that the population was killed off by an atomic bomb explosion around 1500 BCE. The proffered evidence is rife with pseudoscience, so unsurprisingly, it has been featured prominently in the History Channel show Ancient Aliens. A nice bit of shade. Radioactivity. Beyond the bodies, these themselves pseudo-historians make a claim of radioactivity levels in the area. These claims range from a radioactive dust covering the whole city to the bodies themselves being among the most radioactive ever found, on par with those of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The problem with these claims is that they are so vaguely sourced it's impossible to find the original claims to verify it, and several thousand years later it's more than likely radioactivity would have faded out significantly. Well, yeah, but that's how radioactive they were. That even though the radioactivity has died out, they're still as radioactive as Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So it wasn't just a nuclear bomb, it was a super nuclear bomb. Indian. See, it's good to see. The more you see of the world, the more you realise humans are all the same. There isn't some big fucking ethnic or racial difference between people. We're all fucking idiots. No matter where you're from in the world, no matter what religion you were raised in, no matter whatever, everyone's a fucking moron. Everyone, all of the people are fucking knobheads. And that's kind of beautiful. I can't think of a more egalitarian way of looking at the world than we're all equally stupid. Cillian Murphy, Indian. Of course he's fucking Indian, yeah. The Irish are just the Indians of Europe. And the Scots. We've already been through that one.
In terms of doing this kind of work?
There's a lot. And anyone that knows the scene in India, the Mughals have just been removed from many of the school textbooks. In the 40 years I've been living in Delhi,
oh no. Oh, I didn't want to do this. Okay, Ancient Aliens. Atomic blast destroys ancient Pakistani civilization.
Sindh Province, Pakistan, 1922. An officer of the Archaeological Survey of India is led by a Buddhist monk to an area believed to have been a religious monument. But under the mounds of dirt, archaeologists find instead an ancient Indus Valley city dating back to 2000 BC. It is called Mohenjo-Daro, or Mound of the Dead, and it is one of the oldest civilizations discovered in the world.
Mohenjo-Daro was very advanced for that time.
Wu Zetian hated cats. Well, I already didn't like her.
They had sanitation. They had all kinds of good things going. And they had a lot of trade going with Mesopotamia.
The city of Mohenjo-Daro rivaled the ancient civilizations in Egypt and Mesopotamia.
Right, get to the crazy. Come on, this is all just like seemingly banal but good history. Let's go.
Archaeologists believe that over 35,000 people once occupied the city. However, only 43 skeletons have been discovered at the site.
Okay, I mean, there are a number of issues there. Firstly, ancient burial rites, often because people understood that dead bodies around is not a good idea. Most civilizations, I don't know about this one, would have buried their dead away from the city. Or, indeed, burned the bodies, therefore destroying the evidence, which is a practice certainly, has been carried on on the subcontinent for thousands of years. But don't let that get in the way, you know.
There are many theories surrounding the mysterious disappearance of the Indus people from Mohenjo-Daro. In 1977, British researcher David Davenport discovered that part of the archaeological site showed evidence of having been destroyed by an extremely powerful explosion.
Or an earthquake? Could it have been an earthquake? It is, in mountains, which generally are seismically active. Like, it was probably just an earthquake or something. Or a big fire. Could have been a fire. Fires happen in cities. Famously, there was a great one in London. I wouldn't say great, it was pretty good, but it wasn't great. I've seen better.
He found what remains of the blast. And he believed that this area was the epicenter of something that he believed was an explosion that destroyed a part of the city. And he found the evidence of vitrified pottery, bricks that were totally fused, melted, or vitrified.
Yeah, so a fire then. What you're looking at is fire damage. Probably. I think that's certainly far better than, like, ancient nukes. Because that's bollocks, obviously. Cow-fart nuke! That's it. Don't play with a lighter around the arse of a cow. You destroy your ancient cities. I thought people knew this.
Scholars claim that several calcified skeletons found at the site suggest they suffered an instantaneous death.
Okay, maybe they did. So?
In Mohenjo-Daro, they found bodies, arm in arm, skeletons, arm in arm, that had been...
People get buried like that. There are literally, like, people who die in, like, a plague or something. Sometimes they'll bury them, like, literally embracing a family, or, like, a child with a mother. This isn't particularly radical stuff. This is, like, we've got examples of this from all over the earth. Did they all get killed by fucking nukes? Why did the people in the other parts of the town who were hugging at the time not get fucking, like what? This... These are the hard-hitting political content I need in my life. Well, I don't want it to get too fucking heavy, do I?
Vitrified, virtually vitrified.
For years, restricted access to the site has prevented scientists from analyzing the
Oh, gee, they always do this. restricted access to the site. Like, they're not trying to hide it from you big-brained motherfuckers. It's because they don't allow random fucking freaks who don't know what the fuck they're doing to stomp all over delicate historical archaeological sites. They don't, like... Yeah, they allow, like, professionals who know what the fuck they're doing. Rather than you and some weird fucking... ancient alien space fucking nuke twats to go around hitting things with a hammer. You know how delicate these fucking sites are. They don't allow any random cunt in, yeah. They're not hiding things from you. They're protecting them from you.
Ruins. But in 2014, mineralogist Dr. Sam Iyengar was able to obtain a piece of fused pottery from Mohenjo-Daro and put it through a series of tests.
When I did the...
Okay, how did you come by this material and what is its provenance? Because they always say this. Oh, I got some chips of dust from 9/11. And it shows nanothermite. No, it doesn't. Where did it come from? Oh, some bloke gave it to me. I kept it in a drawer for a few years, you know. And then I analysed it, and it's got lots of nanothermite in it, so... Turns out the Jews did do it. Like, no. No. Who the fuck is this person? What are their credentials? Where did you get this shit from? How was it tested? Where are your results? If you can't show it, you don't know it.
Elemental analysis, it showed me that the Mohenjo-Daro rock contained mostly silicon, aluminum with some calcium and potassium. So my thought was maybe it could be some type of a clay, till I did the X-ray diffraction.
X-ray diffraction is able to determine exactly how a material was formed.
When I did the X-ray powder diffraction, this is the pattern I got. And you can see some crystalline peaks here, along with an amorphous hump, which usually results from a glassy phase in the rock. The composition is very similar to volcanic rock.
Okay, so maybe it was a volcano then. But are there volcanoes in the area? I don't know.
The only way the clay can be converted into something which we saw is subjecting the clay to a very, very high temperature. I'm talking 4,000 to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. That is not something an early civilization can do intentionally. It has to be something supernatural.
What? Hang on, whoa. You were sounding sciencey for a bit there. And now you've gone, look, the scientist doesn't go, well, I don't know the answer, so it must be aliens. No, you go, well, I don't know the answer. We'll continue to test. You know? Why does it have to be supernatural? Also, what the fuck do you mean by supernatural? What is that exactly? What does that mean?
Could this pottery sample, which shows irrefutable evidence of having been subjected...
See, but it's not racist to say that these ancient Indian peoples couldn't have created this shit themselves because they got a brown guy to say it. So it's not racist anymore. If it was that white guy with the crazy hair, that would have been racist. But now they got a black guy, oh, not black guy, brown guy, with like an Indian name to say it. Ooh. Not racist anymore. It's absolutely fine.
...to extreme heat... be definitive evidence that Mohenjo-Daro really was the site of some type of powerful explosion in the ancient past.
Okay, but what about that suggests nuclear? Why not? It was destroyed by, like, raiders that came in. An ancient tribe from the next valley over came in and killed everyone, blew up their houses. Why nuclear bomb? David Davenport and other researchers of India's ancient Vedic texts have... Or a meteor. Although I suppose with a meteor they'd have to explain why there isn't a massive crater anywhere. I guess would be the answer.
Suggested that this is the case, and that Mohenjo-Daro may in fact be the kingdom of Lanka, a city whose destruction is detailed in the Indian epic known as the Ramayana. In the Ramayana, it is described that the god Vishnu decides the leader of Lanka, a mortal named Ravana, has...
That is a fucking strong look. Holy shit. I presume this is an absolute like-for-like depiction of this creature that existed. The lad. Really strong look. That is fucking... I mean, for a start off...
I don't want to do this anymore!
Genuinely epic. Genuinely epic beard work. That is sculpted. That is precise. The horns, I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. Are they implants? Piercings? I don't know. The eyes are mental. I love it. He looks like Maradona. What the fuck? How dare you do my boy Diego Armando Maradona? Maradona. Fuck. Dirty like that. That is outrageous. Noises happened. What was it? Thank you, Niall, who says, can't believe no one has referenced Arnold Rimmer. Why would we reference Arnold Rimmer? Even though he is reliable as a garden strimmer. He's also a fantastic swimmer.
It's grown too powerful. Vishnu takes the human form of Rama and does battle with Ravana, who has become like the gods himself.
Ravana was a very formidable enemy.
Davenport doesn't exist. So who is he even talking about then?
In fact, most of his power, it was acquired from God Shiva.
Ah, see, they've got another brown guy. Okay, no, I thought it might be racist, but apparently it's not. It's not.
Himself, because he was a great devotee of Shiva, and Shiva gave him lethal weapons.
During the battle between Rama and Ravana, they used particular weapons of energy.
Do they need to have the voice, the words for that? Are Americans so lazy and so stupid that they can't pass this? I mean, it's a relatively strong French accent, but you can understand him. You don't need the fucking subtitles.
Weapons of the gods. They have a very big power of destruction.
It was described as the sun.
Oh, there we go. So, you know, it's back to being racist again. Thank fuck for that. Oof. Crazy. You know that these texts aren't necessarily entirely historically accurate. Because, like, I literally mentioned the way that man looked like Maradona. So like, I don't think they're entirely historically perfectly accurate. Just saying.
Turning into 50 even more brighter suns with this incredible blast. So some people have suggested...
Right, but there was also this ancient text that said the guy had over 9,000! In 5,000 years, that won't become true. Yeah, people make shit up to make it sound cool and epic and... Whoa! He had the power of 50 new suns. He probably just had, like, a fireball that he flinged over in a fucking trebuchet or something. Like... Do you know what I mean? People big shit up.
That perhaps at Mohenjo-Daro some type of a nuclear blast occurred. Not only do we have a textual reference to a possible nuclear blast...
No, you don't. No, you don't. I'm sorry. No, you don't. Energy weapon from, like, text of, let's say, dubious historical... It's like mythology. It's deliberately not sort of true to make it sound like gods and shit, right? But we know it was written by people. For people reasons. Mentions energy weapons. That's not a textual reference to nuclear bombs. He probably just used a mirror to, like, set something on fire. And everyone went, whoa! That's fucking mental, bro! oh, you should write that shit down. He had the power of 50 new sons. No, he didn't. He had a broken bit of glass and magnified and then set some hay on fire. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's that thing.
We also find physical evidence that show vitrification of stone. And the only way that stone can be vitrified is if it's exposed to extreme heat.
So like fire. Okay. Well, thankfully fires have never happened anyway. Otherwise that would be a silly point to make.
This is not mythology, this is not superstition, this is documented historical events.
Right. Okay, no, don't get me wrong. The place exists. We've got lots of physical evidence that there was a place that exists that people lived in. Good. What there is not historical evidence for is a nuclear bomb, you dumb cunt. You can't go, this is historical fact. This is historical fact. All we're claiming is that this place exists where people lived and there's a nuclear bomb. Fact! No, hang on, what was that last bit? What, where people lived? No, the bit after that. Oh, the nuclear bomb. Oh, yeah, the nuclear bomb bit. I have an issue with that. I have an issue with that particular part of your historical claim.
Of people...
How did I not know about this before? This is mental. I don't follow enough conspiracy shite, I think. Oh, no, fuck. Oh, we've gone back to... Where's your man again? I've lost him. Does it matter? Oh, we're nearly at the end anyway.
With each other using advanced technology.
I happen to believe that mankind possessed incredible technology.
This guy isn't even a fake scientist. Radio host. Why do I care what you think? No offense. If I want advice on communication, which, look, I'm in the business of communicating myself, so I might give you a ring one day, George Norrie, for advice on how to more effectively communicate with an audience and engage with them on a live one-to-one footing, okay? I'll contact you. When I want advice on ancient people and the advanced technologies they may or may not have had, you've got no expertise. I'm sorry, mate, you're bringing nothing to the table. You're not even Indian, so you can't even, like, cover for the racism or anything. Like, you're just a white guy on the radio. The bricks could have come from a furnace. Exactly. Thank you, Niall. Thank you for the donation. Yeah. This is rubbish. This is literally nothing. Why do they have to make it mental? Why can't they look at this amazing old place and be like, this is fucking incredible. People lived in this place. Oh, that's amazing. What happened at this place? Oh, there's a big fire or something. Whoa, that's fucking cool. And then get on with their lives. Whereas this fucking dumb cunt's like, no, I reckon they had nuclear bombs. Yeah. Why'd you have to invent a story on top of it? Why is life not interesting enough for you as it is? Are you that fucking bored that you have to fuck up other people's history? Dickheads.
Incredible knowledge, and that they did things that we're doing right now, and then something happened.
Then something happened. They were doing things that we do now. Yeah, they were probably going for a piss and or shit regularly. Or irregularly, but either way, continuously throughout their lives, they were eating food. I would bet that most, if not all of them, took in oxygen and expelled carbon dioxide. They were doing many of the same things we're doing now. And then something happened. Maybe a fire, might be an earthquake, might be a nuclear bomb. Who knows? Sorry, what was that last bit again?
And they had to literally start all over again.
Yeah, because it was a big fucking fire. Yeah, they had to start all over again because it was a big fucking fire. Okay. Worthless.
The Mogul part of the National Museum has been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking until virtually nothing is left of the Moguls at all on display. And they've just given a lot of the Mogul stuff to a new museum put up by the Aga Khan Trust outside Humayun's tomb. So actually they're now on display very nicely, rather more nicely than the National Museum. So
Sorry,
Yes.
continually, not continuously. No. They probably didn't shit 24/7 for their entire lives. Good catch, Crayon wannabe. Fair call. They're similar words. I bollocksed it up. My bad. My bad. I can't conclusively prove that none of them had some sort of hideous bowel complaint that led to that, but I would imagine most of them didn't. That would make civilization building more difficult, I think.
The Mughals are the idea is that Nehru bigged up the Mughals, and now everyone wants to know more about what the Hindus did. And this is very interesting tracks of Indian history, which is true, were not taught before. Also, I think there's a very real feeling that all the history that was taught was Delhi history, and that the history, for example, of the Cholas, who are these extraordinary kings who rule in South India, is not part of the textbooks, and that's now coming back. So it isn't all bad, but there's no question that the Mughals are out of political fashion, that they're being removed from history, and that there's very little money if you're a Mughal historian to do your research, and there's some feeling of discrimination, yeah.
I'm kind of jumping forward in history, but I recently read your book, The Anarchy, and loved it, and so I do want to talk a little bit about...
I promise you no pre-watch. I didn't know she was going to shout it out too.
The themes you explore there. Edmund Burke famously called the East India Company a state in disguise of a merchant. How did it become so powerful? And did it have help from Indian insiders?
So, The Anarchy is a book about the East India Company. And for those that don't know this history, the East India Company was founded not far from here, in the same year that William Shakespeare's writing Hamlet and Julius Caesar. Same year, 1599, there's a meeting at Moorgate Fields, a short trip away on the tube, and the East India Company signed. And it's a commercial operation. It's a corporation. It's not the state. And so we've all been brought up, both in India and here, to think of the British invading India, and Clive of India fights the Battle of Plassey, and India becomes part of the British Empire. And that's only half true, because what actually happens is it's a corporation, a for-profit business, which takes over India, which in a sense is far more sinister, because at the end of the day, the East India Company...
Yeah, I saw that Rangers lost, but unfortunately they did get through, so... But they've still got to get through another round to get to the Champions League, so fuck them.
Is all about its share price. So from this point on...
They're already, after 2 games, they're already 4 points behind in the league. Amazing. How'd you fuck up a season after a fortnight, really?
See, in 1757... India is ruled by
you love
a
to see
corporation that has a share price, has annual general meetings, and is giving dividends to its investors. And like any business, that is ultimately the most important thing. So it's slightly like Avatar, that movie where the mining company takes over
I'll have a look at that 255,
and tries
thank
to
you.
extract all the minerals for profit.
Do I ride into battle on a massive rat? No, a rat rides on me into a battle. That's the order now in Birmingham. The rats are bigger. We can't take them on. So we decided to knuckle under.
East India Company,
the giant T-Rex rats,
does this in reality because it has to, it's there. It's a corporation. It exists to enrich its shareholders, and its shareholders consist not just of the toffs and the elite in Whitehall and Charing Cross. What's fascinating is that from the beginning, the model of the East India Company...
Yeah, fuck Rangers. They're absolute scum.
...share business was that it appealed to ordinary Brits. So if you look at we have the founding subscription sitting in the British Library, again, not far from here. And you can see that the top is, the Lord Mayor of London, he gives £2,000. But on page 11...
Which is a huge sum of money back then.
There's, John Smith, vintner, so-and-so, the leather worker.
So it's a little bit like when Thatcher was privatising everything that moved, like Tell Sid.
Exactly. Everyone has a share. So ordinary people are invested in, and they make a fortune, just like with Thatcher, with British Telecom privatisation. People that bought £20 worth of BT shares could sell it a few years later for £2,000. The same happens with the East India Company. They go off to Kerala, they go off to Canada. They go initially to Southeast Asia, to the island of Run. They bring back spices, and they sell it for something like 1,000% profit. So the vintner who put in 2 shillings can now buy himself a new wine shop. And from that point until...
Yeah, Thatcher really did fuck the UK. Can we get some lols in chat for Thatcher being dead? I think that's definitely on the cards.
1858, when the East India Company provokes the largest anti-colonial revolt in history, which in this country we call the Indian Mutiny still, but in India is known as the First War of Independence. For 250 years, it's a corporation that is exploiting, looting, and asset stripping India. And India moves from a country which, under the Mughals, had produced 40% of the world's GDP to a country that, when we give it back, or India takes it back in 1947, has only 7% of the world's GDP.
Imagine that. Before we took over, they were creating 40% of the entire world's production. 40%! But apparently we brought them civilization. Interesting how they were able to do that without civilization. Curious.
And the story of the last 80 years has been India re-establishing itself back to the old equilibrium of the time when Pliny regarded it as this great threat, of the time when these extraordinary merchant guilds were colonizing and searching for gold in Southeast Asia. To the moment now, so today, India is just 2 years ago crossed Britain with its GDP. By the end of this decade, it will leapfrog Germany and Japan and be the 3rd largest economy again in the world. And the only question which remains to be settled is whether by the end of this century, India is going to be 1, 2, or 3, and whether America, which at the moment seems to be, under Trump, sort of self-destructing all its extraordinary soft power around the world, destroying Voice of America, destroying all the things that make America actually influential in the world. So who's to say where India will be by the end of the century? Will it be? It's quite possibly will be number 2. And I'd have put my money on China 10 years ago to be number 1, but who knows? It's all up for grabs.
Before we move to questions from the audience, I've got one last question for you. You've been outspoken in your criticism of Israel's genocidal war on Gaza.
Told you he was based. Also, that's a lovely smile. She's a cheeky minx. Anyway, yeah, I told you he was based. He's a good lad.
And you've also been someone who has shown a real interest and participated in the Palestinian Literary Festival, real involvement in Palestinian culture. I know that this is a massive question. We're slightly short for time before we go to the audience Q&A. What do you think that we in this country primarily get wrong when we're thinking about Palestinian history?
Well, how long have you got?
Not long.
Well, first of all, I think that it's significant and important that no one in this country is taught anything about Palestine. You will never, in any British curriculum, be told that when the Balfour Declaration was made in 1917, Palestinian Muslims and Christians made 95% of the population of that land. And that when we left in 1948, only 30 years later, 75% of the indigenous Palestinians were turned into refugees, many of them on the sand dunes of Gaza, where they are being annihilated in this genocidal starvation and war and act of subjugation going on at the moment. So it's very important for us all in this room to realize that it is our politicians who are responsible for this. outside Downing Street, the building to the left is the old Colonial office. That was where all this was planned. The Balfour Declaration took place inside Downing Street. We created that mess that has left the Palestinians refugees, continually subject to aggression, genocide, destruction, dispersal. And for Starmer today to have the outrageous idea that Palestinian statehood is something that can be gifted or endorsed in return for something other than the inalienable right of the Palestinian people is completely shocking.
Based and correct.
So we are the country that created this mess, and it's very important that we make sure that there is a serious solution to this problem, which still, although increasingly difficult because of the policies of Netanyahu over 20 years, I think is a two-state solution. Others would disagree and say a one-state, but I don't think the Israelis will ever agree to that. A two-state solution, I think, is still achievable, and we need to
Even
work.
now?
I think it's still achievable. The settlers can be sent back. They've only been there 20 or 30 years. The settlement blocks can be, but it needs pressure, obviously. It needs sanctions. It isn't not just a little Starmer tap on the wrist and Lamy putting out a Facebook post or something. We need to have sanctions. We need to have action by our politicians, and we need to recognize our responsibility for creating this mess and doing something about it actively in real time, no longer welcoming the head of the Israeli Air Force as we did only 3 weeks ago in the middle of the genocide when he's bombing everyone. No longer training Israeli army, which is what we're doing at the moment at Sandhurst. No longer doing the intelligence flights, which was told at the Israeli embassy do at the British Museum a month ago as Britain's contribution to the war effort, then denied on the Today program by Lamy on Monday. I think completely. I think it was an untruth. I think we have been by all accounts, we have been doing these intelligent flights and are actively engaged with the aggressor in this genocide. So that's got to end. That's got to stop. We've also got to educate ourselves. We all need to read much more about this. There's brilliant. My one bit of bibliographic advice is wonderful Ian Black, who's the Guardian correspondent, Enemies and Neighbours, most brilliant primer. If you don't know this stuff, you need to know it. And that is the most neutral book I've read, but which gives both sides very well. I'm at the moment working on a 12-part history of Gaza for the Empire Pod, which we're going to release in September, which the opening batsman is Joe Quinn, talking about talking about the Philistines. And just to finish the question, of all the kind of things I've learnt in the course of studying for this, the most interesting to me was I thought it was the Romans who came up with the word Palestine. But in actual fact, Palestine is a word as old as literacy itself. It's in the Egyptian form, it's Peleset in the hieroglyphs. The Assyrians talk about Palestina. Herodotus talks about Palestine. The father of history says that Palestine, and he says there are Arabs where Gaza is. So it's a long, complicated history. Many people's... the Levant is the most fantastically mixed and plural and cosmopolitan part of the world. Every port has mixtures of people. And that's true of Palestine too. And people are coming in and out. It isn't just it's one people sitting there. There's migrations in and out throughout the whole of history. But there is always this group of people. And
it is the place where ethno-nationalism makes the least possible sense. Like, it doesn't make sense anywhere, but especially there, it really, really doesn't make any fucking sense at all. Historically, obviously morally, practically, it's just an awful, awful thing.
DNA of modern Palestinians is almost identical to the Bronze Age people that, which Joe was talking about from the Bronze Age collapse from the first half. They are the same people that have always been coming in, mixed with different groups, plural and mixed and not pure, but a mixture of everything. A chutney, what Salman Rushdie calls a chutneyfied mix of people. But they've always been there. And they need to have a state. Now is the time. So we need all of us to work for that and to pressurize our politicians. Everyone write their MP tonight.
Thank you so much.
Indeed. I won't bother with the questions because it's only like 7 minutes or whatever. But oh, that's the wrong one. There we go. I'm going to get fucking rid of this fucking thing. Piece of shit. Fuck off. Come on. Anyway, yes, I'm going to fuck off for the night because I'm tired and sweaty. Ugh. 255 asks, do you think a two-state solution is still possible? That strikes me as a little bit of cope at this point. I'm not sure it is possible, really, practically speaking. But no, practically speaking, it would be possible. In terms of the American government never being okay with that and the Israeli government never agreeing to it, that's the problem. But, you know. Anyway, yes, I'll put up the oh, pardon me. I'll put up the debate on my YouTube tomorrow, hopefully, in full. So that should be worth a watch if you're just getting in, or a rewatch if you've already watched it, or whatever. I'll turn it to fucking Boomhauer. Don't trust the Liberals, they will betray you. I wonder who said that. I think it was Captain Picard. Yeah. The Vanguard are going on the YouTube, so I'll send you over there. Enjoy that. And who is going on the Twitchy McTwitch machines? Let's have a look. Who is this person? Very Nice TV is going. So I will send you over there. Go and check them out. They're an up-and-coming streamer, you know. Let's share the love around, shall we? Boom. I will see you all tomorrow, I think. I don't know what I'm covering yet. Stuff. That's it. That's all I got. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your support. Thank you for listening and watching. Let me know in the Discord how you thought I got on in the debate. Free Palestine. No pass around.